a game. Nikola Jokic, Karl Anthony Towns, Victor Wembanyama, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Duren. 5 players. That's the list. Pretty good company to be in. Among the other top perceived contenders, as we've talked about, the Celtics and Cavs, they simply just don't have enough. They don't have enough firepower in order to win in that sport. If it were college basketball where you just had to win 6 in a row in order to win a title, yeah. In the NBA, these teams are good enough that they can get hot and win 6 in a row, but that's not what it is in the NBA. It's best of 7 series. Jaylen Brown, he deserves strong MVP consideration for how he's carried Boston in Jason Tatum's absence, but its depth is very light. In order to get to proper aprons for the future and set themselves up cap-wise and financially for the future, Boston made some moves that have intentionally positioned them worse in the short term this year. And that's going to be exposed over a best of 7 series, which it's all about matchups. And Boston, you might get through 1 series. You're probably not going to get through 2 with their current roster. The Cavaliers, they're not better than they were last year. They panicked at the deadline. They dumped Garland. They dumped Hunter for Harden and Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. And putting Harden's playoff history aside, he just fractured his thumb this week. Out tonight. Donovan Mitchell didn't play in this game tonight either. It just doesn't look like this Cavaliers team was as good as last year's, and last year's team lost in round 2. So who does that leave us with? Leaves us with the Pistons, leaves us with the New York Knicks. That would be a fun, physical Eastern Conference Finals. Don't forget, Detroit pushed New York to a 6-game series when the Knicks advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And let's be honest, always take regular season matchups with a grain of salt. Don't put a lot of credence into them. But in the case of the Pistons facing the Knicks, there might be something there. In the 3 meetings this year between the Pistons and Knicks, Detroit's won all 3. The first win by 31 points. The second win by 38. The third game a week ago last night, Detroit was leading by 20 in the fourth quarter, coasted. Nothing's guaranteed in future years. So you better capitalize when things fall in your lap nicely. The Pistons have it right there in front of them. The Eastern Conference is theirs to lose. The Pistons need to punch their tickets to the finals this year. As mentioned, Miami of Ohio improved to 29-0 tonight. But what should happen to them if they were to lose in the MAC conference tournament? Also, who deserves the 4th number 1 seed in college basketball? The Hall of Fame sports writer Mike DeCourcy is also Fox Sports' bracketologist. He'll join us and tell us next.
There's some big names on the trade block. Jalen Waddle, Max Crosby, A.J. Brown. Where are they going? And how will the moves impact your team? We'll tell you as it happens. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Josh Graham.
Really appreciate on a really fun night of basketball, the Hall of Fame sports writer from the Sporting News and also Fox Sports bracketologist Mike DeCourcy spending the time with us. In the NBA, it's a fun night. Right now, we're watching SGA's return against Nikola Jokic, but focusing on the game you know so well and love so much. Miami of Ohio improving to 29-0 tonight. Michigan getting the win over Illinois. Let's start with the Red Hawks. I know industry-wise, you always should start with the biggest school and the one with the largest alumni base. No. Let's look at Miami of Ohio. How dramatically would Miami of Ohio seeding change if the Red Hawks should have its first loss be in the MAC conference tournament, hypothetically, Mike?
Well, I think it's hard to say because I seem to be on something of an island relative to their seed at this point. What I'm doing when I do the brackets for Fox, as I've been asked by my bosses, is say, this is Selection Sunday. This is what the bracket will be today. And so as I've looked at Miami for the last month or so. This is an undefeated team. This is not a team that won the MAC. This is an undefeated team that won the MAC. That's what I have to look at. And my colleagues who do this, others in the business, others who do it for fun, are looking at it as a team that won the MAC. I have had them as an 8 seed for most of the last month. I don't know when I started at that point, but most of the last month they've been an 8 seed. And I do that because I look at it and say undefeated. They're now 29-0. When I did the bracket earlier today, they were 28-0. That's a significant number. It's not 8-0. If somebody's doing it when they're 8-0, it's not the same. And so I don't know what it will do to their seeding, because I don't know what their seed will be if they're undefeated. I can tell you this, Josh, since the seeding era began, not the 64 team era, but the seeding era, which began in 79, every single team that finished the regular season undefeated was seeded at number 1. Every one. 79. And that includes multiple mid-majors and a fringe major. Mid-major Indiana State with Larry Bird in 79. Mid-major Wichita State out of the Valley in 2014. What I call a fringe major, not really a mid-major at the time. Certainly the Atlantic 10 was not. They were still getting multiple bids, 4 bids, 5 bids some years. Lately, not as many. But in 2004, St. Joe's finished the regular season undefeated, another 1 seed. And then the high majors, even I guess technically UNLV in 91 was in a mid-major conference. They were a high major program. And then you had Kentucky in 15. So every one of them got a 1 seed. Now, I'm not campaigning for Miami to get a 1, but I'm shocked that I'm so alone in projecting them to be a single-digit seed.
How much of an anomaly is Miami of Ohio in the context that you talk about among mid-majors? Because the first place my brain actually went, speaking of Kentucky teams in the middle of last decade, that pairing that Wichita State received, where they had that great run, they had a great record, and they get paired with Kentucky in round 2. That's a classic. They lose. But that team had NBA talent on it.
Yes.
Ron Baker comes to mind, Fred VanVleet. Is there any NBA talent on this Miami of Ohio team? Just how different is this?
Yeah, I don't think there is. Peter Suter is a heck of a college basketball player and would be an outstanding player in any conference we have. First team all conference, maybe, maybe not. Depends on the situation, how he's used, etc. He'd be a very good player in any conference. But would he play in the NBA? Probably not. I'm not going to rule it out for him. I mean, he's going to take his shot. When this is all over, he's going to take his shot at the NBA and professional basketball. I think he's going to make money playing pro ball. I'd be shocked if that doesn't happen. He's really skilled, terrific shooter, great team player. I think he'll make money playing the game. But whether that's in the NBA or not, I would say unlikely. But I do love him as a player.
The Hall of Fame sports writer, Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News, is with us here. Fox Sports, you can see his brackets drop Tuesday and Thursday. And what we saw this week, the latest bracket, projected UConn as the 4th number 1 seed alongside the 3 that are pretty firmly there, it seems, with Duke, Arizona, and Michigan, especially after the win against Illinois tonight in Champaign. Mike, how firm do you feel about UConn? How many teams do you think, with 1 week left to go in the regular season and the conference tournament following, are still in contention for that 4th number 1?
Well, I do think that UConn's in great shape because they just went through their well, I was going to say their 2 most difficult opponents, but how difficult are the other opponents in the Big East right now? It's not been a very impressive year for the league. And so unless they slip like they did against Creighton, which, look, Creighton played well, whatever. I attribute it mostly to the fact that they were getting a little bit bored, for lack of a better word. I think they were. I think they looked at another team coming in at 500 or so, and Villanova on the weekend, St. John's the following Tuesday. They were gearing up for those and not paying enough attention to Creighton, and they got stung for it, as they deserve to. If you don't take every game seriously, there's a good chance you're going to lose it. And they learned a lesson from that, but I don't think that'll happen again. I don't understand the aversion to this UConn team. Like Duke a year ago, tremendous team and could have won the national championship. They were playing in a league that was pretty much just as meager as this Big East is. Maybe more so because I'm not sure there was a St. John's in it, so to speak. But we didn't question Duke because we knew they were great. Well, why? I don't understand why so many are so willing to give up on this UConn team. I think it's a UConn team that still is only beginning to become what it can be. I think Braylon Mullins, who missed a month at the beginning of the season, got banged up again in the middle of the season. He's their most talented player and hasn't been able to go all out the whole time, and he's lost his rhythm a couple of times. And I think as he continues to grow as a scoring threat, they become even more dangerous in March. I love Houston's team, but are they – I mean, I guess if they close out down the stretch, winning them all and do something big in the Big 12 tournament, they could still maybe. But their case right now is not strong for a 1 seed. Terrific team, not a 1 seed. Iowa State has a strong case for a 1 seed, not as strong as UConn's in my estimation, but can they navigate the challenges that are out there for them that would secure a number 1 seed, because they have to move forward. They just can't hold ground. They have to move forward. So I think that it's probably between UConn and Iowa State. Florida's playing great and tearing the SEC apart. And if they continue to, could they climb up there? I suppose it's not impossible. So it's a long way of saying I think there's three schools for one spot.
Drilling deeper on something very interesting you said was comparing UConn to last year's Duke team in terms of conference strength. It does seem that the Big East is better than the ACC because the teams in the ACC, you're talking about an 18-team conference. You get 4 bids in. You're talking about maybe 4 teams, 5 possibly. No, Big East Conference is strong, but just roster construction wise, guards win in March. Give me this UConn backcourt over Duke's backcourt a year ago. In terms of pedigree of having success, well, Dan Hurley is a 2-time national champion, and Alex Caravan is still on this team while that Duke team was so young. I think in some ways you probably trust this team from UConn a little bit more than you would trust that Duke team. But I'll say this, in the spirit of talking about last year, where it seemed like there were 4 teams separating from everybody else, there are a lot of people parachuting on college basketball right now, trying to get geared up for March and figure out what they're going to do on their brackets. And you are the one that give us the brackets a couple times a week. When you're looking at how many teams can win the championship or capable of doing that this year, how much different is that list now versus what it was a year ago?
Oh, I think it's deeper. And it's deeper because it starts with there are very good teams that have NBA level talent. I mean, I mentioned Houston before. I still think they can win it. They have to get Emmanuel Sharp, Milos Uzan back playing the way they did last March. If they do, they become very dangerous. Then they also have Kingston Flemings, who's a definite NBA first-round pick. They have Chris Sinak, who's another NBA first-round pick. They're a more talented team than a year ago. I tell this story a lot. I was standing in a scrum after the championship game with Kelvin Sampson, and I was really right next to him. And he was lamenting letting it get away because it was so close. I mean, they had a shot to win it if they'd been able to take it. And he said this team was built to win it. And I wasn't, Kelvin and I have a great relationship. I wasn't going to say to his face, no, it wasn't. You don't have any NBA guys, because you have to have them, Josh. NBA first-round picks have been on every single NCAA championship since my first Final Four covering, the year 1988. We're almost talking 40 years now that every single one. So if you don't have them, you have to become a 40-year anomaly, basically. That's just that doesn't happen. And so now he's got them. And now he's got to get all the other supporting players back moving in the right direction. I look at teams like Florida. Thomas Houck's going to be a first-round pick. He's terrific. Teams like I would not rule out at all any of the 1 seeds. I think they all have a chance to do it. They've got both the.
What do you do with Kansas and North Carolina?
I have to include Kansas because they've been very effective as a team in a lot of ways. Their offense needs to be significantly improved. They can't win with the offense they have, not in this field. They're 44th right now in Ken Pom offense. Now, around this time in 2015, you were looking at Duke being in that neighborhood, maybe even a little lower in defense that year. Their defense was really broken until they made the switch to go to Justice Winslow, more of a mobile power forward than they'd been playing. And the defense amped up, and it was good enough at that point to beat a great field and win Coach K's championship, his final championship. I think Iowa State can't be ruled out. I think Justin Jefferson's got a shot to be a pro, to be a first-round pick, and they have the offense and defense. Illinois is not out of this, although their defense has to get better. But when you got Keaton Wagler, you've got a shot. So I think the picture is bigger this year than it was a year ago.
You and I, this is why we connect. Mike DeCourcy with us here. You have me reminiscing about all of our off-day lunches or dinners in between NCAA tournament weekends, because this conversation, where I don't know if we ever had the conversation about NBA talent on championship teams and the historical piece of it. But I remember it was a buddy of mine, David Glenn, a buddy of ours, that texted me this stat that has always blown me away, that every single national champion dating back to the mid-40s has had a player drafted with the first 30 picks.
Yes.
You can't say first rounder because in the 40s, 50s, 60s, there aren't that many teams there aren't 30 picks in the first round. So you have to go first 30 picks. And I remember in between the championship game or in between the Final Four and the championship game in New Orleans back in 2022, I brought that stat up to the great Bob Ryan, and Bob rattled off the top of his head whatever draft it was in 1946 or 47, the guy that the championship team that didn't have a top 30 pick. I bet
of course he did.
Do that trick in Indianapolis coming up in a few weeks, I'm sure.
Of course he did. He is the best, an absolute legend. I don't have that frame of reference in terms of going back that far, but I was at the Final Four in '87, sitting 20 rows from the top of the Superdome, watching Steve Alford shoot Indiana to a national championship over Derek Coleman, future NBA first-round pick, in 1987. And that was the last one that didn't have a first-rounder. Indiana had, Steve was selected early in a second. Dean Garrett was a second-round pick. I think Keith Smart might have been a second-round pick. He had a nice pro career. But that was the last time it happened. And it just, you just know at some point, and I thought it was really poignant that Walter Clayton not only is the Final Four most outstanding player, but not even scoring a basket, a closeout, that a pro-level athlete, an NBA-level athlete, first-round guy, is going to close out like that to force the turnover from Emmanuel Sharp. An ordinary player maybe doesn't get there. And that's kind of why this matters. Sometimes it can be a little thing like that NBA talent makes the difference. And until somebody does this, it's why at the beginning of the year, Josh, I was seeing a lot of Purdue #1 picks. They had a lot of talent back. They brought in a nice player like Oscar Clough. They were going to be good. They were going to be better. But when people started saying they were going to win it and they were going to be #1, I'm like, hey, I think Matt's a magician. But he'd have to be a magician to win it without an NBA guy, without a first-round pick, because it doesn't happen. And I don't think they have one.
Mike DeCourcy with us here. Don't forget that the Final Four in the NCAA tournament, Westwood won the exclusive home of that. I am definitely going to lean on your expertise. See, you know the lay of the land in Indy well. If I'm trying to find a place to eat in Indy during the Final Four, you better not be sending me just to St. Elmo's, okay? We got to find all the spots.
Well, what's interesting is that St. Elmo's, although I love it there, it wouldn't be my first pick. As a matter of fact, my wife and I lived in Indy for 10 years and never ate there. But there's a brother restaurant, sister restaurant, whatever you want to call it, called Harry and Izzy's. That was our spot. There's one downtown, and that was our spot. Deb and I, we would go there on a regular basis. There was one out in the suburbs, not far from where we live. It was terrific, and there are similarities to the St. Elmo's menu, but a little bit more low key, I guess, is a good word to put.
That's what I love to hear. Mike DeCourcy, sounds like a date at the Final Four. We'll talk Best Actor and talk Oscars at that point, and we hope we could visit sometime soon. Thank you for doing this. It's always appreciated.
You bet, Josh. Thank you.
There goes Mike DeCourcy joining us from the Sporting News, Fox Sports bracketologist as well. Make sure if you're not just listening to the show, hey, well, we appreciate it if you're watching it as well. We're on Westwood One Sports Night on YouTube. You can see the guests. You can see us. You can see some of the new office apparel, studio apparel, including the Jolly Roger East Carolina logo that's inside the studio here. So however and wherever you're listening or watching, greatly appreciate that. Diego Pavia met with reporters in Indianapolis today. It did not go well. You'll hear that, and we'll react next on Westwood One Sports Night.
How long will the Steelers wait for a decision from Aaron Rodgers? Or could Mike McCarthy and company be in the market for a QB like Malik Willis in free agency? Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood Sports Night. Here's Josh Graham.
15 minutes from now, Free for All Friday will begin, where you can steer the ship whatever direction in the sports universe you please. Do it 1 hour a week, once a week. Before we get to that, let's talk about Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia should not be an NFL draft pick. He's not an NFL player. If you're a team that has a good GM, Pavia shouldn't even make it on their board. In getting to know executives in the NFL over the last 5 or 6 years, the draft is something that is always fascinating to me. So I asked so much about the behind the scenes of the draft. How do you cut down your board? How many names are on that board? How many guys are just full out written off? And you'd be surprised how detailed these reports are when they specifically come to injuries. How many noteworthy names are written off by your favorite team because of what their doctors, what their criteria is in terms of risk for injury and in some cases character. Diego Pavia is the definition of a character write-off. Let's go down memory lane, shall we? While at New Mexico State, he urinated on the midfield logo inside New Mexico's indoor facility, their greatest rival. Last offseason, you might remember he won a court case that allowed for him to get another year of eligibility. He told the Bussin' with the Boys guys he ignored calls from Big Ten schools, didn't even take them about transferring. His quote, "You want to play with the best. You don't want to play with the Big Ten. You ignore those calls," close quote. In Tuscaloosa last October, he confronted an Alabama fan by grabbing his crotch and yelling, "I do what I effing want." But all of that pales in comparison to the Heisman ceremony, where he went to a nightclub afterwards when Fernando Mendoza won, posed next to a sign reading F Indiana with his middle finger up. He also posted on social media, "F the voters," clearly not knowing anything, including that the voters include former Heisman winners. With all of that as the backdrop, let's hear how he handled character concern questions at his combine availability. Because, hey, if he was apologetic, if he was sincere, if he was eloquent, perhaps all those things in the past you can move on from. He was none of those things. Here he was on the perception that surrounds him.
one thing about me is I don't care what people think about me. I think that just comes from, God has a plan for me regardless. But the way the media is they're supposed to put out, clickbait and things like that. That's how people get views and that's how people make money. I understand that. And so like people will twist a story and try to put out bad media to get clicks, good media to get clicks. That's just what today's world that we live in. So I'm just adjusting to the new world.
To quote the billionaire owner of Twitter/X, you are the media now. The media spinning things with clickbait, you're the one that posted F all the voters. That wasn't taken secondhand. That wasn't something, it was whispered and then reported and then anonymous. Source was you. And by the way, to all athletes out there, stop saying the expression, I don't care what anybody thinks. I hope you care what your coach thinks. I hope you care what your GM thinks. I hope you care what the owner thinks. I hope you care what your mom thinks. I hope you care what your spouse thinks. I hope you have friends in your life where you value what they say. It's not the flex you think it is when you say the expression, I don't care what nobody thinks. Kind of, Diego Pavia. We can tell. And it isn't good. Oh, it gets better, though. Here we go. And by better, I mean worse. When he was asked where his confidence comes from.
I'm not too sure how to answer that. I feel like there's a lot out there, but I just want everyone to know, what's true about me is I'm humble and I get my confidence from my process. And if you saw how much I put into this, you would see where I get my confidence from.
It's an Andy Samberg clip at this point, an Andy Samberg bit, like a digital short. You know who the most humble people are? The ones that stand in front of everybody, in front of microphones and cameras and tell us how humble they are. It's the roots of humility. Excellent stuff. And by the way, this is all character write-off. That doesn't even address the football conference. D-Day, you remember what he was listed at Vanderbilt last year?
He said 6 feet. I didn't see no 6 feet.
And it was so obvious he wasn't 6 feet because he was standing next to Jeremiah Love, Fernando Mendoza, and the other finalist whose name slips me at the Heisman ceremony, and he looked like a little small child. That's how he looked. He was listed at 6 feet tall, despite the fact that when he was measured at the Senior Bowl, under 5'10". Under 5'10" at the Senior Bowl, listed at 6 foot at Vandy. Somewhere every woman on Tinder is nodding, understanding the experience. We haven't seen a modern NFL quarterback stand under 5'10". Bryce Young, Kyler Murray, 5'10". Doug Flutie, 5'10". They're taller than this. So you'd have to go back to the late 50s, early 60s, to the 5'7" Eddie LeBaron days, maybe even to the 30s with the Davey O'Brien days to find the last time a quarterback is short, or to find a quarterback shorter than Diego Pavia playing in the NFL. And by the way, stop with the comparisons to Johnny Manziel. Stop with that. Manziel was a legit 6 feet. Manziel won the Heisman Trophy. Manziel was a first-round draft pick. Diego Pavia might not get drafted. Manziel beat Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa, not Kalen DeBoer in Nashville. There's a difference. If you want to know what the best comp is for Diego Pavia, it's actually the best SEC comp we can give you. It's not Johnny Manziel. It's not even in football. You remember Ole Miss basketball player Marshall Henderson, D-Day? Oh, yeah. Crazy highlights, fun wins for a non-traditional program. But the things that we remember Marshall Henderson for, wild antics. Wild. And that's what Diego Pavia ultimately is going to be remembered for. But, this might be a good way to start Free for All Friday if you want to jump in on this topic. Is Diego Pavia worth a late round pick in this year's draft? 310-840-4910. Keeping you posted on the NBA. Fourth quarter, Denver Nuggets 89, Oklahoma City 90. Oh, I just did the thing that's obnoxious. I thought it was an 80 on the board for OKC. I just did the losing team first. That's not good. Fernando Mendoza did that earlier today. We'll hear that at some point later. It's a pet peeve. OKC leads at 90-89 currently. But the most important part of this game is that SGA is back in the lineup. Back. That's good. In terms of scoring right now, Nikola Jokic has 16 points, 14 rebounds, 11 assists. No big deal. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has 32 at the moment. Hasn't hit a 3, but 11 of 23 from the field. 7 assists. He probably more than once has done that push-off number to hit a pull-up jumper near the elbow. So this looks like it's going to be a fun finish at the end. 7 minutes to go, and Denver up a point, 91-90. When Free for All Friday begins, we'll take your calls. You get to steer the ship, and we'll talk about one potential national title contender in basketball that almost literally nobody is talking about. That's next.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
It's Free for All Friday. You steer the ship. Any questions, any topic, call us now. 310-840-4910. Here's Josh Graham for Westwood One Sports Night.
Even if it's a mocktail, not a cocktail, I feel like I need some type of prop, some exotic type drink, maybe even a margarita to enjoy. Because Free for All Friday has arrived, 1 hour a week, inviting you to steer the ship at 310-840-4910. 1 hour a week, that's what you get. Tell us what we're not talking enough about in sports. A lot of items on the menu. Let's get it started with Mr. Positive in Michigan. I can imagine that in the state of Michigan, not a bad night with the Pistons beating the Cavaliers in overtime and the Michigan Wolverines going to Champaign and beating the Illini. Mr. Positive, where are you steering the ship to get us started?
Boom shakalaka. Let me spread some positivity throughout the land. Warriors. Dreaming lets you wonder. Dreaming gives you hope. A pathway back to wellness. A healing safety rope. Hit me. Boom shakalaka. Yes, I got to tell you, Josh, Graham, JG, the Pistons won. But here's the problem. We should have lost to the teams. We've played the two best teams, and they did not have their superstars. We have holes in our team. We cannot shoot the three-pointer. We have grit. We're there. We're competitive. But Josh, I got to tell you, we're not going anywhere without a good three-point shooter. We've got it all. We need a
That's not very
three-point shooter.
positive, Mr. Positive. This sounds like false advertising from you.
Oh, but I got to be real, Josh. I got to be real. And I mean, that's what we need. We need someone that will help Cade. If we don't get it, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be at the bottom. And my Warriors, we can't let that happen. And I got to tell you, Josh, last but not least, my Elvis movie is fantastic. I saw it 3 times today, 3 times in a row. Unbelievable.
Wait, the Elvis Austin Butler movie? Is that what you're talking about?
No. It's epic. EPIC. It's fantastic. A 96 to Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, tell your mom and dad to go see it. Everybody has to see the greatest cultural music icon the world has ever known.
All right.
Love you, Josh.
Mr. Positive. Yeah, love is mutual, Mr. Positive. There he goes. That didn't sound very positive at all, D-Day. Thought the whole point was boom shakalaka, go for your dreams, positivity. And instead of being happy that the Pistons won these games, and also Michigan is beating Illinois on the road, it's just negativity. Talking about it not being enough, the Wolverines not even getting any run there. A little disappointing. You know what it's like? Do you know where Texas Pete is based out of, D-Day? The home of Texas Pete.
I would guess Texas.
It's a good guess. It's actually Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 10 minutes from my house. And they actually got sued for false advertising. Don't think that got anywhere. Don't think that they succeeded with that lawsuit. But someone said, how can you call yourself Texas Pete when you're based in North Carolina? It's kind of how I feel right now. You're Mr. Positive, and there's a bunch of negativity. So we'll get to more calls, 310-840-4910 momentarily. It is Free for All Friday. But as promised, there is a basketball team that nobody is talking about that just might be a national title contender. That is the Virginia Cavaliers. The dark horse of this college basketball season is the group from Charlottesville that is sitting at number 11 right now, yet nobody is speaking about them. Nowhere. No ranked team has been discussed less than the Virginia Cavaliers. And that's despite the fact these Wahoos are 25-3. Do you want to know the list of high major schools with fewer than 3 losses this year? Michigan, Duke, Arizona, Gonzaga. And we know Gonzaga plays in the WCC. They're also playing tremendous ball right now. They won 9 in a row, including a 28-point win against a good NC State team that's going to be in the tournament. That happened earlier this week. Right now, Ryan Odom has a strong case for National Coach of the Year. He is the only first-year coach that has a team currently ranked in the top 25. All 9 players on this roster that average double-figure minutes per game, all the players in Virginia's rotation are newcomers, either freshmen or transfers. It's reminiscent of how quickly Chris Beard got Texas Tech to the national title game. Remember, they were runner-ups, went to overtime, lost in Minneapolis 2019. You want to know who that team lost to? Virginia. And the story to come from that, what a story it was. Those Cavaliers winning the national championship a year after being the first 1 seed to lose to a 16. That 16 seed was UMBC, coached by Ryan Odom. Virginia has an opportunity to completely transform the discourse in college basketball this weekend. The game of the day, high noon Eastern, Saturday. It is the Hoos visiting number 1 Duke, Cameron Indoor Stadium. That is a building that John Shire hasn't lost in since senior night 2024. Nearly 2 years. If Virginia wins, they go from being a dark horse that no one's talking about to perhaps the trendiest squad in the sport with the calendar flipping to March. That's what's at stake tomorrow at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Virginia, the dark horse in all of college hoops at the moment. 310-840-4910. Let's go. We often get knocked that we don't talk enough hockey around here. That seems to be a theme of Free for All Friday. Oh, this is the chance to get into hockey. So let's go to V, who's in Chicago. V, who is a fellow Carolina Hurricanes fan, once in post-Olympic break, hockey being back. V, where's your head at right now?
I like the introduction there. So I'm kind of mad that I didn't get to this last week, but Brandon Bussey's extension, I'm glad that they got it done where anyone could poach him. But looking at the contract, he looks like he got underpaid for especially how he played recently. I mean, I understand the guy.
Well, that's a good thing.
If I was him,
that's a good thing.
I would.
Hey, the Canes got a deal. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I know. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't blame him. I'd stay in Raleigh. He explained that he loves the metro area, and I wouldn't blame him, But
have you ever been to Raleigh? Have you ever been to North Carolina, V, to watch your Hurricanes play?
No, not once.
Man,
but
we need to do that. That needs to happen. You need to visit the state of North Carolina and watch the Carolina Hurricanes. Let us know. Give us a call afterwards. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah, one of these days.
All right. So you're all for the Brandon Bussey extension?
Yes, I'm on the bus. That was a nice win last night. That was a nice win last night. Kind of looked. Yeah, that was a nice one last night. Kind of looked shaky after they gave up that 3-0 lead, but got it done. Thank you.
Stop. Go out on the high. Go out. There goes V in Chicago. Riding the bus. Brandon Bussey and the Hurricanes, two best teams of the Eastern Conference, facing off last night, and the Canes getting a 5-4 win. Let's go to Barry from Boston. It is a conversation. Perhaps if we have more time later, we could discuss it, where you have conversation post-Olympic break. Sidney Crosby out for the next 4 weeks. Mikko Rantanen, we've learned, going to be out for a couple of weeks. That's not very fun. You got some injuries that came directly from what we saw in the Olympics. But then you have just this boon where a lot of people are interested in watching, say, Connor Hellebuck right now facing Anaheim, and he got an ovation with Winnipeg. Barry, where are you at on the NHL right now post-Olympic break?
Well, I think things are taking off. Yes, I watched a lot of college basketball tonight. I watched Marshall against Southern Georgia. Fantastic game until the last 3 minutes, and Marshall just kind of fell asleep.
Wait, why Marshall Southern Georgia when you have Michigan playing Illinois and then Miami of Ohio going down the stretch of Western Michigan? What are you doing?
We were watching everything. We had all the different sports
you
on.
Got three screens up and we got Marshall on the screen.
But
I love that.
Well, I was at a place. I was at a sports bar that had numerous games going. So anyway, Celtics destroyed the Nets tonight, but we won't talk about that. As far as hockey goes, women won the gold, men won the gold, and Canada's very upset about that. And it's so funny that the captain of U.S. plays for Toronto. He has to go back to Toronto and and hang out with and
don't forget about Connor Hellebuck playing for Winnipeg.
Oh my God! Yep, the whole crew. It was awesome, and I think hockey's taking off. My son's playing junior hockey in New Brunswick as we speak, and it's going incredible. And hockey's just taking off, and I love the month of March. Whether it's March Madness, we're talking the Frozen Four, we're talking the Final Four, the Sweet 16, all that basketball, hockey, and
who's going to
baseball.
win who's going to win the Beanpot?
The Beanpot was won by Boston College. That's who I was cheering for.
Oh, it's already happened. My bad.
I was there.
Sorry to the
And
Eagles.
I was there. I was there. It's the first 2 weeks in February. So the first 2 Mondays in February. So I was there last year when BU won, and I was there this year when BC won. It was awesome. It was fantastic. But As far as the hockey goes, I think Boston College has a chance of, they have like 7 or 8 draft picks for the Bruins on their team that I think they have a great chance of going forward. But there's a lot of teams out in Michigan, in the middle of the country, that are just fantastic too.
Yeah,
and
I love
it's not all Americans. It's a lot of the Canadian dudes coming down. So,
right.
Hey,
I love
have
the
a great
hardcore
weekend.
nature.
Thank you for
See
taking
ya,
my
man.
call. I really appreciate it.
Hardcore nature when it comes to college hockey as well. See, these are the things that are important to spell out, D-Day, because it's not a joke. It's not a game. I live 45 minutes away from a town spelled K-I-N-G. Nobody there calls it King. It's pronounced Kang. Right? Got to have the accent in there. Kang. So when you're talking about the very important college hockey showdown that is known as the Bean Pot, you got to say it just like that. We're not calling it the Bean Pot. No, it's the Bean Pot. And as Bucci points out, the sport itself that includes the Bean Pot is called college hockey, not college hockey. These are just some of the important things to spell out as we're getting Free for All Friday started. Forgot to lay down the full ground rules that include, as Buzz Williams infamously pointed out to fans in Blacksburg when he was Virginia Tech's coach roughly 10 years ago, stop cussing, no cussing. It's the ground rules here for Free for All Friday. 310-840-4910. We'll continue to take your Free for All Friday calls, and there was some good, there was some bad from Fernando Mendoza's media session today. We'll get to that next on Westwood One Sports Night.
NFL trade season has opened with a rare player-for-player trade. Former first-rounder Jermaine Johnson goes to Tennessee for Tavondre Sweat. This D-line swap signifies we're on our way to another active offseason. Bring it on. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
It's Free for All Friday. You steer the ship. Any questions? Any topic? Call us now. 310-840-4910. Here's Josh Graham for Westwood One Sports Night.
Yes, we're going to your calls. Then we're getting to what Fernando Mendoza had to say at the NFL Combine today. Let's go to James, who's in Gainesville. Your calls welcome. 310-840-4910. James, you're up on Free for All Friday. Where are you steering?
Hey, Josh. Hope you've been doing good. What I wanted to ask you, Josh, was basically, with some of the teams, NFL teams getting new coaches, two of them that I thought may have some upside to them, and I wanted your opinion on it. Do you feel like the Giants are going to be a more improved team than what they were last year? And do you think with what Robert Saleh with the Titans, do you think they're going to have an upside as well? Because I think both of them may not be necessarily playoff teams, but I think the Giants could be. But I think it may be a lot better than what they were. Maybe.
Who do you like more? Who do you like? Who do you trust more to take a leap between those two, the Giants or Tennessee?
I would say with Giants, but I'm also wondering. I'm also sort of intrigued by Cam Ward, and I'm wondering like if Robert Saleh and the right coaching maybe can unlock him, and then maybe like a prospect that turns into a great quarterback that everybody sort of ignored because he was like overall number one pick last year. Nobody really talked about him much, with him being that high of a pick and everything, and there wasn't really a lot of talk about him much. And I'm just sort of wondering if it's sort of one of those things where I can develop him into something better, or do you think he's somebody he's okay, but they're going to have to do better if they want to move up in the rankings, sort of.
Yeah, I got you, James. Appreciate the call from Gainesville as always. I'll answer. And I think you've identified the two teams that have probably the highest ceiling for improvement from where they were this past season in terms of how they can jump this year. Probably going to have the largest improvement in the way of wins from 25 to 26. And I go back and forth on this. You do very well there to identify those two teams because they seem to have done a good job with their hires. The Giants with the most noteworthy hire in John Harbaugh, The Titans bringing in Robert Saleh, but also Brian Daboll to be the offensive coordinator too. And they have a crazy amount of cap space too. On top of that, and both these teams have top 5 picks to make their rosters better. D-Day, I'm split on it. How do you answer who's more likely to take a leap in 2026, the Titans or the Giants? Are those the correct 2 teams in talking about teams taking the biggest leap?
Well, I would say the Giants, because they have better explosive players. It was very apparent with Cam Ward that he just did not have weapons to throw to. And at the very least, assuming that the recovery process is going well for Malik Neighbors, he's still going to be good to go for the start of the season for New York. And that just makes life a hell of a lot easier because that guy's a borderline top 5 wide receiver when he's healthy. So I would say the Giants. Also, their defensive line is ferocious. They do have concussion Cam too.
Yeah, concussion Cam. You have, see, that's the part where I think you're right. I think it is the Giants because there's more on that team that I trust. You're going to see people compare the Giants to, and we've done it, to what the Patriots have done and how quickly you can turn things around. But the Patriots needed to do all of that in free agency. They needed to bring in Diggs, and they needed to bring in Landry, and they needed to bring in Milton Williams. All these guys they added in free agency. The Giants, they already have a good core on their team. Just look at that pass rush with Brian Burns and Thibodeau on the other side, Dexter Lawrence in the middle of the D-line. You already like that. And then on offense, well, this is a good question. Who do you like more right now, Cam Ward or Jackson Dart?
I'm still privy to Cam Ward.
Okay.
I think Dart is a little wild.
You're probably right.
Yeah, I'm still privy to Cam Ward.
Yeah. I don't think it's that far of a gap between the two, but I think I'm with you. I'm not going to sell my Cam Ward stock after just 1 year when things went as disastrously as they went there. So that's probably the answer to the question, the New York Giants. Real quickly, before we get to Fernando Mendoza and more of your calls, 310-840-4910. For this hour and this hour only, your chance to steer the ship on Free For All Friday. Tell us what we should be talking more about. 310-840-4910. How would you describe the final possession of regulation with the Nuggets and Thunder tied? The game now going to overtime. How would you describe it for OKC?
It was nothing short of a disaster. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had the basketball, top of the left crease, very obvious, and Denver traps him, forces the ball out to Caruso. Caruso had open real estate, attacks the basket, floater, right hand, dominant hand. This should be easy. Not like the greatest contestant in the world from Denver either, but he was so stunned by him having the basketball with under 6 to play. I think he touched the ball with like 3.4 seconds left. He was so stunned that he himself had the basketball that he just didn't know what to do, spastically threw up a floater that missed, and by the time they got the rebound, it didn't really matter. Ugly possession. Thankfully, overtime has looked a lot better for him.
Yeah. Caruso just hit a driving layup to put OKC up 5, but they just panned to the Oklahoma City bench where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had his head in a towel and then his hands on his head. Hasn't been in the game in overtime. So don't quite know what's happening here. If this is some sort of minutes restriction with him having returned, but Oklahoma City's up 5, 116, 111. You can help me out if the interwebs are saying anything about what exactly is happening here with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If this looks completely normal, if a trainer's there working on him whatsoever, something to keep an eye on. Let's go to Fernando Mendoza. There was some good and there was some bad from his media availability today. When we talk about Fernando Mendoza being good at this being the media piece, polished and talking to reporters, entertaining, giving substantive answers. This is what we mean. This is as good of an answer you're going to hear when asked about how he feels about going perhaps to the worst team in the NFL.
The possibility, I mean, we see how the NFL turns around so much. NFL, the margins are so small. There's so many games decided by so few points, and the difference between, a losing record and a winning record is a couple of drives, is a couple of key plays. And so whatever team I'm on, I'm just going to take that advice and take the coaching from the coaching staff, and however I can best serve my teammates on that team, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
That's as good of an answer as you're going to get. Talking about, hey, think about how it's thoughtful, how small the margins are in the NFL. And it's true, even when you talk about the teams that might be the worst in the league. The margins, they are small. And preparation, having the right players, mindset, those things can factor into it. Thought that was really well handled on Fernando's part. The bad appeared when he was talking about past losses that he had in college, and he committed a sports nomenclature, sports language faux pas.
I played a lot of college football, started 3 seasons, which has been a great experience. In my first 2 years, out of probably the 18 games I played, I don't know the exact numbers, so don't quote me on that. A lot of them were one-score games. I had a lot of tough defeats, whether it was 49-50 to USC and Caleb Williams 2 years ago, whether it was 38-39 to Cam Moore and the Miami Hurricanes the past year. I believe a lot of that experience of failing, coming up so short, has helped me in this new run with Indiana, wherever we've.
Yeah. You can't be saying the losing score first. Right? Can we normalize, or actually, no, let's call it out when it's not proper? Saying 38-39, 49-50. Does this bother you as much as it bothers me?
You know what's crazy? I'm glad you bring this up. This is something I'm oddly passionate about. When I started working at a company that we do as a company have a deal with, I spent some time at SiriusXM. I still work there. I was a newsroom editor. And we were instructed, no matter what, you got to go away then home. Which means there were a lot of losing scores. So when you're like, putting it out, it's for update anchors. So when they're looking at it, they can see, all right, this is the away team, this is the home team, the way that it would generally read on a scoreboard. But they would put, hey, away team first, home team second. So that if the away team was losing, you get the losing score first, you get the winning score second. It took a little bit of time to get adjusted to.
Whoa. Blows my mind. My brother just texted me a John Gruden video. Those always get me, man. If you're going to send me a John Gruden video, I'm all in. I'll tell you what, man. You just blew my mind. Tell you what. Do you remember him going toe-to-toe with Caleb Williams? I don't have any recollection of Cal USC playing that type of a game. I remember vividly the time that he faced Cam Ward, and College Game Day was at Cal for the first time, and it was 39 or 38-18 at the end of the fourth quarter of this game. I went to bet on it thinking it was over, and then Miami scored 3 straight touchdowns to win it by a point. I do remember that.
Yeah, so this took place. This was a Pac, well, I think Big Ten. No, this still was the Pac-12, actually. It was a Pac-12 after dark in 2022 when this is when I made the most money in the world, Josh, just betting on the overs in these games because Caleb Williams was Superman. It was his Heisman year, and they had no defense. So Williams, both. But this particular year, I guess, no, it's 2022. He goes, it was 41-35. USC was 9th in the country. Mendoza, see, here's the thing. Mendoza wasn't playing in that one. It was Plummer. It was Jack Plummer.
Yeah, that's
I remember the game. I didn't remember the quarterback.
Fernando didn't play. See, this is why Fernando is such a good teammate. Even if he doesn't play, he takes the loss personally. He lost
Williams was
the
awesome,
game
though.
because he played for Cal.
Team player right there, Fernando. Plummer was fine. I mean, 3 touchdowns, 406 yards, and a pick against the 9th team in the country at that point.
310-840-4910. Let's go to Daryl in Miami, who has some concerns with Mel Kiper Jr. Are you going to pull a circa 2015 Bruce Irvin move where Bruce Irvin once said of something that Mel Kiper said in the first round of a draft, "You a clown, go paint your face"? Is that what you're saying, Daryl, to Mel Kiper?
Man, this dude do not know what he talking about when it comes to judging talent, man. How in the world could you say that Hurricane Bane is not a first-round draft choice, brother? All you got to do is watch the tape.
He said he wasn't a first
don't lie.
rounder?
He
Where did you
said
hear
that,
that?
bro.
I didn't
He's
see
talking
that.
about his arms. He coming with this arms too short mess. Man, I don't care if his arms was like midgets. Watch the tape, my brother. The man is a.
Hold one second. I got Mel Kiper's big
Bane
board
is
up,
a
and he has
4-down
him
lineman,
ninth.
my brother.
He has him top 10. He has him top 10 on his big board. So he says he's a first round talent.
He better. And not only him, Mesidor, and as a matter of fact, I think you agree with this. I think Miami has at least 3 linemen that's gonna go in the top 12. We have Mesidor, Bane, and Frankie Malinois at old tackle. I think those guys are going to be in the top 12.
I was about to say, I didn't know of a third I didn't know of a
Malinois.
third D lineman. I'm saying I thought you were talking about D line. I was like, I didn't know Miami had another one of them.
Yeah, the one O-line. Oh yeah, but we do though. You forgot about the other D tackle. The big man.
Hold one second. There's a difference between being drafted and being drafted in the first dozen picks. That's what I'm saying. I love this Miami Hurricane team, and I think there's a lot to be excited about with get ready for Darian Mensah, the Darian Mensah experience coming up. Great stuff from Daryl in Miami. Another night where we remind you that it's all about the you. All about the you. In the East, we just watched tremendous basketball tonight. A game getting set to wrap up between Oklahoma City and Denver that went to OT. Another between Eastern Conference contenders that went to OT as well. How should we view the East? Is it a 3-team race? Is it a 4-team race? Or is one team better than the bunch? That's next on Westwood One Sports Night.
The NFL Combine is underway. GMs are meeting, and trade season has officially sparked. We're breaking down the moves that could reshape the league and your team. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
It's last call for phone calls on Free for All Friday. You steer the ship. Any questions, any topic, call us now. 310-840-4910. Here's Josh Graham for Westwood One Sports Night.
Ring the bell. Last call for phone calls. Free for All Friday. 310-840-4910. Where I need to defend myself very quickly. If you're watching on YouTube, shout out to you. If you're not, you can watch the show in addition to listening. Check out my sweet setup here. Just go to Westwood One Sports Night to check that out. And we have a comment from J Graham 1426 that says, "Love the setup, Josh," which naturally leads to the response, "Are you telling yourself you love your own setup?" I can understand why someone might think that J Graham 1426 commenting on this post is me myself. But you should know, I have a brother and I have a sister that both start with the first name, that have names that start with the letter J. Jordan and Jessica. I don't know which of the two that is. I would assume it's one of the two. Don't think it's one of my parents that start with the letter. Well, I know their names don't start with the letter J. So it's a mystery. Unless there's another Graham out there who has a first name that starts with a J. That just so happens to be in the comments of this show. All of it is a possibility. We can't rule it out, D-Day. Can't rule it out. But
so this isn't like a burner?
Myself. I'm Kevin Duranting the situation.
Your own burner has basically your first initial and last name in it.
That's it. Man, that setup sweet though. Check out that brand new East Carolina Jolly Roger over there. It's pretty cool. 310-840-4910. Let's go to Thomas, who's in Wisconsin. Thomas, you're on Westwood One Sports Night. Where are you steering the ship?
Boom shakalaka, baby. Josh, how we doing?
Doing pretty well. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I had a fantastic night, my friend. I'm watching, by the way, on the YouTube stream. Great karate chop. I just got back from a beautiful and wonderful jazz concert, and yeah, I just wanted to call in about spring training, specifically from my Brewers perspective.
You don't want to talk jazz?
Wait, what do you mean jazz? Are we still on free for all?
Yeah, we are on free for all Friday. So like,
well, of course,
well?
I'd love to. The concert did, absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was that was only a half-hour segment or if it goes full hour. I'm
1
so
hour
sorry,
a
John.
week. 1 hour a week.
I'm
when
so
the Jimmy
sorry.
Buffett
That's on me.
plays. Yeah, that's how it works. I'm of the belief that the most famous jazz musician that ever lived was Ryan Gosling in La La Land, and I don't want to look at my mentions by saying that.
I love that. No, the jazz concert went really well. I'm part of the jazz ensemble, so that's the lower one. We had 8 charts. Wonderful concert, for sure. So it was a very fancy one. It was a big band cabaret and dance party. Oh my gosh, people get out there, and they
Did
were.
you say you were a
they were
Brewers
dancing.
fan? I guess that makes sense. Do you feel good about the Brewers? Because all I hear people talking about from that division is the Cubs, and they weren't the ones that won the division last year.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of that uncertainty and hesitancy, for sure. I mean, obviously, looking at spring training, Jackson Sherrill is definitely looking a lot more comfortable. He's not just reacting; he's actually like stepping into his swings and like feeling like he actually like is really like belonging in this organization. But I think, I would say like the biggest thing is the pitching. That historically has been a struggle, and that is kind of what kind of worries me a little bit, for sure.
All right.
But
we'll see how
I think we have a good young group.
Would you? This is
I'm
the last question I have for you. That's very important, Thomas.
Yeah, and then can I leave you with something?
Do you trust the
Josh,
Miz?
can I?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Do you trust the
No, I
Miz?
was going to say, can I leave you with something philosophical?
Oh, got it. I was going to
ask
instead. I was going to instead ask if you would trust the Miz enough from the Brewers to throw a fastball at your head, but to knock off a can, the way that we saw at spring training earlier this week, where he knocked a can off someone's head. There was a great amount of trust that was displayed. Would you trust the Miz to do that?
For my head,
Yes.
I'm sure I would have probably the biggest, loudest, and noticeable flinch in my entire career in life. But I would. I have not personally
Well,
seen
that means you
clip. I'll have
don't
to go
trust
and
him.
find it.
Now, you answered the question. Now, give me the philosophical question on the way out. What do you have?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, everybody go for your dreams. Hey, life honestly is a lot, of very fast moving moments. But remember, everybody, that when you're a college student like me, who turns 23, by the way, on Monday, so I have to call into the show Monday. That'll be 23. Second. But remember that saying no is healthy, right? I tell this, by the way, to my grandma a lot. Shout out to my grandma Gladys. And also, before I forget, shout out to Mr. Positive, great conditioning. Saying no is healthy. Saying no is healthy. Only do the things you're comfortable with doing. So, like, be okay with saying no to something.
Then I'm gonna say no to extending this call, but I appreciate it, Thomas, in Wisconsin. 310-840-4910. Was that not nice, D-Day? Sorry. I thought that was a pleasant call from Thomas.
I mean, Josh gets the show, so I don't think he'll. But that was very
Thomas.
smooth. It was kind of a bar. Or Thomas, sorry. Well, Josh also gets the show. Josh and Thomas get the show, and Josh's burner.
That's right. We don't have the sound yet, but we'll get there. In the last hour, Jerry Jones invited the local media in Indianapolis onto his bus. Why does Jerry Jones have a bus in Indy? I don't know. Jerry Jones happens to.
He ain't staying at a hotel. Come on now.
He spoke with the media for an hour, sitting there on his Madden cruiser, just firing off. We'll get to the highlights of that in just a little bit. But as promised, to the NBA's Eastern Conference we go. 310-840-4910. Free for all Friday about to come to an end. The East is no longer a 4-team race. It's the Detroit Pistons conference to lose. They've been the best story in the NBA this year, winning tonight against Cleveland in overtime. But after winning a playoff game, their first playoff game in 17 years last season, they currently boast the best record in the East, and that margin's just growing. It's not shrinking between them and the next closest team. Because Nikola Jokic and SGA were in danger, might still be in danger, of failing to meet the 65-game minimum required to win MVP, it might be Cade Cunningham's to win. He might stand to benefit. Cunningham, he isn't the only guy, by the way, that's blossomed into a star. Jalen Duren. Here's the list of players that currently average at least 18 points per game and 10 boards. Jokic, Cat, Victor, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Duren. That's the list. 5 guys. And among the top perceived contenders in this conference, the Celtics and the Cavs, they simply don't have enough. Jaylen Brown, he deserves MVP consideration. It's a regular season award for how he carried Boston to where they currently are, while Jason Tatum's been out. But this is a team that's positioned itself with the aprons and such to make itself worse in the short term and hopefully better themselves when Tatum returns in the future. Their depth, it's light. They're going to be exposed over a 7-game series or a best-of-7 series. If it were college basketball, hey, all you have to do is win 6 in a row. Sure, they have enough talent to get hot, but to beat the same opponent in a best-of-7 and do that 4 straight series, no chance. The Cavaliers, they're not better than they were last year. They panicked at the deadline when they dumped Garland and Harden Garland and Hunter, to bring in Harden and Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. And even putting James Harden's playoff history aside, he fractured his thumb this week. Donovan Mitchell was out of tonight's game. I'm sure the NBA loved that. Probably just as much as they loved that 12-minute horn delay where they couldn't get the horn to stop sounding. So that leaves us with what? That leaves us with the Detroit Pistons. That leaves us with the New York Knicks, which would be a fun, physical Eastern Conference Finals matchup. Detroit pushed New York to 6 games when the Knicks advanced to the Eastern Finals last year. While regular season meetings shouldn't really be taken all that seriously, the Pistons murdered the Knicks in their 3 meetings. 31-point win, 38-point win, and a week ago, last night, Detroit leading by 20 in the fourth quarter. So nothing's guaranteed in this league in the future. You got to capitalize right now when it's in front of you. Detroit, the favorite to win the Eastern Finals, to get to the NBA Finals. That's how they should be viewed. Last call, Free for All Friday. We got about a minute and change for Brandon in Chicago. Brandon, where are you steering the ship to close us out?
Gramalaki, Kakalaki. Thanks for taking my call. I'll try and be quick, sir. I wanted to get your opinion. The Bears need to move up to get Jeremiah Love. I think they can package DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, and a second-round pick to Cleveland They need dudes. They need picks. And then is Jalen Durant grandmama or more like Sean Kemp?
Excellent call. Thank you, Brandon. And I appreciate the efficiency of it. Just because I'm in Charlotte, I'm going to say grandmama. That's how I'm going to answer that rather than going with Sean Kemp. In terms of packaging picks to move up, I don't know. How many spots would that be for Chicago to get up to a place where you can take one of the top players in this draft? That's a significant jump. And moving on from DJ Moore, don't quite know if I'm there, even though I understand there was some criticism during the playoffs and maybe people might overreact to playoff results. That happens quite a bit, it seems. That's been quite a free-for-all Friday. The Jimmy Buffett, it being 5 o'clock somewhere. I always forget. Where is it 5 o'clock?
An island far, far away.
Yeah, some island. Bora Bora? Was that it?
Around there.
Okay. Love the Jimmy Buffett telling me to move on. We'll do that. Coming up, something that absolutely needs to be said about Fernando Mendoza before things get crazy. Keep it here on Westwood One.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Josh Graham.
We have audio from Jerry Jones' bus. And in part of the hour that we get to shortly. I'm sure that's going to be very entertaining. But before we do that, yes, it is Westwood One Sports Night. So glad to have you here. We're with you until, well, depends. If you're on the West Coast, midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. Don't know why I'm making a large point to say that there. Let's get to the big topic, though, from the Combine. Fernando Mendoza is already a sports legend in the state of Indiana. That's what happens when you take that program to win a national championship. So that fact, coupled with the strong likelihood he's going to be the number one pick in the draft, it gave off a Beatlemania-like atmosphere when he stepped up to the podium to speak at the Combine in Indy today. And let's get this out of the way so that we're clear for the next 2 months. Fernando Mendoza is going to be the number one pick. And it's not because he's a quarterback and it's a bad quarterback draft. It's not because a team is reaching on him as a prospect with that pick. And it's going to be the Raiders taking him there too. Let's just be honest about it up front, not get ridiculous. The reason why Fernando Mendoza is going to go number one to the Raiders is because he is the best prospect in this draft. If you watch college football, this should not be a controversial take. He won the Heisman Trophy. He was the best player on one of the best college football teams of all time. First team to ever go 16-0. Not to mention, to reiterate, he did this at Indiana, not at Ohio State. Speaking of the Buckeyes, though, Mendoza, his last 4 wins against Ohio State, against Alabama, against Oregon, against Miami. He had 9 touchdown passes, 1 interception over those 4 games, plus that iconic rushing score in the title game. But if that's not enough for you, if just watching college football and seeing him win the Heisman and win the national championship and win the game, if that's not enough for you, Daniel Jeremiah The best draft analyst out there, as far as I see it, has Mendoza as his number one ranked prospect, as does the guy who created the industry, Mel Kiper of ESPN, and so does PFF and many other places. And they're not wrong. But get ready. Josh! It's a bad quarterback class. That's why he's number one. It's a quarterback that they're reaching on. They always reach on quarterbacks. Fernando Mendoza isn't just a prospect that would go number one in this year's draft and is going to the Raiders. He'd also be the number one pick if it was last year's draft. If Fernando Mendoza, with this resume, let's say, not coming off playing at Cal, if this resume of Fernando Mendoza was put side by side with last year's resume for Cam Ward, you're taking Fernando Mendoza 100 times out of 100. But you tell me, who would you rather have, Cam Ward or Fernando Mendoza? 310-840-4910. Frankly, don't even see the argument for Cam Ward. Don't get it. Yes, Cam Ward won the Heisman as well, but he wasn't nearly as good at Miami as Mendoza was at Indiana. Ward had 39 touchdown passes, 7 picks that year, versus Mendoza's 41 TDs to 6 picks, plus Mendoza, a better runner, had 3 more rushing touchdowns than Mendoza, or than Ward did. And by the way, his team won a lot more. Also, the intangibles. They're all in Mendoza's favor. Mendoza's 6'5", while Ward is 6'2". Mendoza, see, if you're going to be the franchise quarterback of an organization, you have to be part politician. You're always speaking to the media. You got to be pretty good at it. You don't have to worry about that with Fernando. He is one of the warmest personalities we've seen from a top prospect. And here's an example of it. Here he was today. What example are we going to point to here? Of potentially being mentored by Raiders minority stake owner Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, who hasn't admired Tom Brady? Guys, I mean, more Super Bowl rings than anybody. So that opportunity would be fantastic. Tom Brady, I believe, is the greatest quarterback of all time by a wide margin, and to be able to have the opportunity to be mentored by him would mean so much, and especially to learn. And I'm all about learning. So from day one, I got to learn a lot, and it's gonna be a long journey. And to potentially have a mentor like that would be pretty impressive and pretty meaningful.
Everybody likes to nitpick the flaws. This is honestly what we do each year is a bit of a pet peeve with the draft, where at some point during the draft process, we've been distanced enough from the Super Bowl, not having a lot to talk about in football enough. So we just focus so much on the draft prospects, focus on the combine, focus on draft order, focus on these types of things, that we break down these kids to a pulp. Like we just break these guys down so much that we know everything about them. We know Reuben Bain's arm length. Oh, we know about David Bailey's cone time that didn't look good in his lateral movement, right? And at some point in the offseason, you're going to have someone say, look how amazing next year's draft is versus this year's draft. Now, next year's class does look loaded, but let's not forget that a year ago, we kind of did something similar where we were like, as good as this year's draft is, next year we've got Arch Manning and Lenoris Sellers. And get ready, we've got 6 Clemson. Cade Klubnik is going to be a top 10 pick. Think about some of the ridiculous stuff we were saying then, because when you've broken down one class for a month now, maybe even longer than that, it's always going to look better, the class that is less examined, less broken down, than the one that you just broke down with a very critical eye. So everybody has flaws. But Mendoza's the safest pick at 1 for the Raiders. You can't take Jeremiah Love. You have Ashton Jeanty. Also, even if it wasn't the Raiders there and there was a need at running back, running backs don't impact the game enough to warrant taking a player that high in the draft. Same goes for Caleb Downs at safety. And you might say, well, Josh, you said Mendoza was the best overall player at his position. Yeah, if the best kicker in the history of college football was in a draft too, wouldn't it be saying they're the best player because they're the best at their position, right? Value does have to factor somewhere in this. And when you get to the edge players, they all have those perceived flaws that we point to. With Mendoza, ultimately the question is, well, how much risk is it? What is this guy going to be in the league? Worst case scenario, he's Jared Goff. Worst case scenario, that's who Fernando Mendoza is. And you might say, is that worth taking with the number 1 pick? Yes. Is Jared Goff a Hall of Famer? No. But he was good enough to take the Rams to a Super Bowl and take another team to the NFC Championship game that they probably should have won. Guy's been playing for a decade. That's a pretty good baseline. Best case scenario, he's Joe Burrow. Dominating in 1 year of college, not losing a game, goes to the NFL with this confidence, and boom, just continues to rise and elevate. Likely he's somewhere in between those two. But that seems to be best case, worst case. If you don't have a quarterback, you're screwed in the NFL. So if you're the Raiders and you have a chance to take Fernando Mendoza, you do it. And they're going to. But they don't have enough support around him. Drake May had the worst O-line in the league when the Patriots drafted him. They threw him out to the Wolves. They were still right to take Drake May. And right here, the Raiders are going to take Fernando Mendoza, and it's not because he's a token number 1 pick. Oh, it's because it's a bad draft, or they're just reaching at the position. No, it's because he deserves it. He's the best prospect in this draft. He's the best quarterback to come out in the last couple of years. So put a little bit of respect on his name as we progress through this process. 310-840-4910 if you want in. Would you take Fernando Mendoza or would you take Cam Ward? You could chime in on that. Here we go. Let's go to Jerry Jones's bus. What features do you think are on this bus? We do have the video element that you can watch. You can see my sweet setup here. You can see my big frame glasses, #BigFrameGang. It kind of takes some of the imagination away from the medium, the talk medium. So, fortunately, in this case, we don't have the video of Jerry Jones to put up here. So we get to use our imaginations a bit. Wonder what Jerry's wearing at this hour. And sitting there, maybe with a cocktail of some sorts. Some, what is it called? Jimmy Walker Blue or whatever.
Johnny Walker Blue.
Johnny Walker Blue. It's late.
I know that's why you need some Johnny Walker Blue.
I do. We just got done with Free for All Friday. But what do you think the bus smells like? What do you think is around on the bus?
It smells like old people. I can guarantee you that. There's no way that Jerry Jones has an appealing smell. Whatever fragrance he uses, if he uses cologne, it probably smells like musk. However,
does Johnny Walker Blue sell cologne? Because if they do, might be
if they do, I promise you therapy is a good option, and you should take that option. The bus is probably silly because he's a billionaire. Have you dabbled? I'm going to guess the answer is no, but I'll ask anyway. Have you dabbled into the rabbit hole that is luxury RVs on YouTube?
No.
Dude, if you have time, which you don't have a lot of time because you do many things, but if you find time, you need to dive down these rabbit holes. They are insane.
I'm seeing pictures of his luxury bus.
Insane. Because think about it. It can fit comfortably the media in there. Now, it's not like a full press conference worth of people, but there's a good amount of people in that bus, and it can fit them. Yeah. That bus got a kitchen. He got a master bedroom.
The main section has 3 TVs on the walls, and I see 6 comfortable chairs and a bar. That's the one picture I see so far on SB Nation. How about set up this clip while I try to find more?
So this is Jerry in his bus, inviting everybody, flexing on everybody. The big topic of conversation for Dallas this entire offseason is going to be, what are they doing with George Pickens? Somebody asked him about negotiating with George Pickens' agent, David Mulligetta, and here's how Jerry said he would be open to doing so.
Let me be real clear. I have no issues at all with working with his agent, and I have no issue with the agent, him, not at all. When he's representing a player or someone that we have, coach, someone that we're with, then those issues are just obvious because the better job I can do for the club, the better off we are. The better job he can do for the player financially, the better off, better he gets. He gets more money.
Steve, do you want to remind people why his agent is a significant character in this story?
He is the agent that represents Michael Parsons.
Oh. Awkward.
No issue, though. Jerry said no issue. Do you believe him?
I tend to trust any man that allows dozens of people onto his bus at an inordinate time of night.
It's kind of normal for the
questions.
combine, I guess, though. Because the tight
bus
ends
there?
What?
To have your bus there?
Yeah, he travels in the bus. Like that's a normal thing.
I think he flew there and somebody had to drive that bus from Dallas to Indy. Because he's like, I'm not staying in a hotel.
You got
I'm just
paid.
going to stay on this bus.
Well, you got plenty of beds. Yeah, you don't have to
That
book a
happens
hotel.
sometimes with pro athletes. I remember one time
Wrestlers do it
there
all
was
the time.
a Major League Baseball player that told my dad. See, my dad just randomly knows people, like Macho Man Randy Savage, speaking of wrestling. But there was a player who got called up from the bigs from AAA and needed his car that was in Rochester. At that time, they were the AAA of the Orioles. And this player paid my dad or asked my dad if he would fly to Rochester to drive his car back to Baltimore. And that's what he did.
I better say, did he do it? Good money.
That's what he did. Got in the car and drove it all the way back from Baltimore. I
Honestly,
do have features of this bus, by the way. You ready?
I'm ready. I'm excited. I love this.
Over under 8.5 televisions.
I would say, so you got 3 that's visible. I would say there's probably one up front for a driver. There's probably a couple in the bedroom. I'd say over.
You'd be correct. 9,
Yeah.
including one on the outside for tailgating.
Yes. Great option to have. Not that he uses it for that, but somebody, he probably rented this bus, but somebody does use it for that.
A kitchen with a refrigerator and microwave.
That's you
Several
gotta have
hidden
that.
coolers are on the
Gotta
bus.
have that.
This is my favorite feature. 3 Blu-ray players.
Okay, boomer. What do you get a Blu-ray player for?
Hey, so does Jerry have a Blu-ray collection? That's a thing.
That's
We're learning-
terrifying.
No. We're learning in the age of the internet, and it's now important and really becoming in vogue again to have tangible media. Because sometimes things just disappear where you can't access something anymore. It's just not there. You can't rent it. You can't find it. So having it in your hand, they can't take that away from you.
I feel pretty comfortable firing at the hip saying that is not why Jerry Jones has that and that he does not care about that. I think people care about what you just said. I can't imagine that billionaire Jerry Jones cares about that.
Multiple display cases, glass display cases for memorabilia, automatic sliding doors, marble countertops. That's what we've got.
How many beds?
7-figure price tag.
Well, I figured it was at least $1 million.
Between 1.5 and 2.5.
Not bad. You would love this stuff. I have no idea if you would love this stuff. We haven't gotten to the part of you're just finding out now. We've known each other for 2 months. You're just finding out now that I love these sorts of things. RV talk, bus talk, van talk, all those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are learning things about each other, and I think I learned a lot about Jerry Jones here and learned a lot about his bus. I don't know if I have any football analysis to add to that. Perhaps that can come. We have some time between now and when these things are going to get figured out. I got bets to hand out. And in addition to that, D-Day. And then there were 12. That's right. One more college basketball team written off as a national title contender tonight. Next.
There's some big names on the trade block. Jalen Waddle, Max Crosby, A.J. Brown. Where are they going? And how will the moves impact your team? We'll tell you as it happens. Westwood One Sports.
The broadcast will begin in 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Josh Graham.
Graham's gambling about 5 minutes or so from now. Checking in real quickly on our bets we handed out last night. Who's the sucker now? Conquistador going into the All-Star weekend got a 5-1 number. We gave out 2-1 last night. Yet those odds actually were improved after. For the better, those odds were improved after the Hornets had the big night while Cooper Flagg set out. What are those odds now, D-Day?
He's now minus 125.
Conquistador is now favored to win the Rookie of the Year award. Cooper Flagg apparently going to be out the next couple games, which is just a bummer because the second game ahead of the Dallas Mavericks is a matchup against Con, and we saw how fun it was where Cooper went for 49, but Con Knipple hit the free throws at the end to win the game, went for a season-high 34 in the game. They were going to meet in Charlotte against each other. That's now not going to happen. We also gave out Illinois' team total under 78.5. That worked out just nicely. With Michigan handing it to Illinois in Champaign. And with that in mind, last night, Purdue was a write-off. We went from 14 possible teams that could win a national championship to 13. Tonight, we're down to 12, D-Day. Illinois, officially a write-off. The Illini lost control of the rope in the second half against Michigan. There's no shame in losing to Michigan, but losing the rope in Champaign, Yaxel, Mo Johnson, Mara, they all finished with 19 points apiece. The problem is Illinois is playing its worst basketball of the year at the absolute worst time. The regular season ends next week, and they've lost 4 of 6, including a home loss to Wisconsin. And you were there, Oliver, against UCLA. What was the lead that they had again?
In the first half, I want to say with like 8 or 9 minutes left, it was 33-10.
Yeah, they had a 23-point lead that they squandered and lost at the buzzer against UCLA. Once again, you can't trust the Big Ten in March. As a conference, it hasn't won since 2000. You do have Mike DeCourcy, guest of the show today, projecting the Big Ten is going to get 9 or 10 teams in. So, in terms of teams that can actually win it all from the Big Ten, D-Day, it's Michigan. And I haven't written off Nebraska yet, but I really want to.
What's stopping you? Lean into the calling of your soul. Your soul is longing. It's saying, Josh, they've never won an NCAA tournament. Why on earth would they go 6 in a row in their first time?
Well, Indiana just did it in football. And they just keep winning games, Nebraska does. They just, and they don't just win games. They look good when they do. That's the problem. But the issue also is, I'm not going to pick a Big Ten team. Not even Michigan. I'm not going to pick Nebraska to get to the Final Four. Because my other issue is, when's the last time they beat a team I know is good? Because their last few wins, it's Maryland, it's Penn State. They lose at Iowa. They beat Northwestern, but then they lose in overtime to Purdue. You beat Rutgers, but then you lose to Illinois. You lose to Michigan. But that was when you had injured players and you hung in there, and the story was how good you looked when you were missing 2 starters. But what is their most impressive? They beat Michigan State at home. They did that. They won in Champaign against Illinois, which feeds my point of why Illinois is a write-off. So right now it's at 12, but Nebraska, not going to pick them to win. Just not going to do it. We're continuing to whittle down this list as March approaches. Now, let's look at tomorrow's hoop slate. It's time for Graham's Gambling.
Sitting back, count money all day, you know.
It's time for Graham's Gambling. Let's make some money.
I'm betting on college basketball, D-Day, as a sport. I'm just betting on the sport. And what I mean by that is anytime you feel comfortable with the team, think that they're solidly a dominant front, what happens? They lose. Because that's what this college season's been. 10.5 points is too many points at Cameron Indoor Stadium to hand Virginia. It's too many points. This isn't old Virginia. Virginia can score. They're not as good defensively, but Duke also isn't an offensive tyrant that's going to run away from you. So, going to take Virginia plus the 10.5. Going to take the plus 470 sprinkle as well, just in case Virginia is able to pull off the upset. Something just feels kind of sneaky. Noon window, sleepy. No one's talking about Virginia. They're playing better basketball than almost anybody in the country, including Duke. 10.5. It's just too many points. You were trying to pitch me Tennessee. You want to take the Volunteers given the way they've looked of late?
Oh, hell yeah.
Laying points?
Oh, are you nuts?
Points.
Yeah. Yeah. The books are lobbing this up to you, Josh. This is D. Wade, and you need to be LeBron in Miami catching it over the body, the lifeless body of Jason Terry, who in this instance is Alabama. This is perfect. You get Alabama, who's ranked 17th in the country. You get Tennessee, who is ranked below them, but they're playing at home. Your neighbor, we call this the neighbor Nicholas theory. Your neighbor who doesn't watch a damn thing about college basketball is going to peek over the fence at you and say, hey, the 17th team is the underdog here. This is easy money. He doesn't know anything. He's going to fall for the bait, whereas you, a smart gambler, are going to do the opposite, and you're going to take what the book has given you and lay the 4.5 with Tennessee.
Principally, you're right. On general principle, I understand that fully. My issue is I haven't liked the way that Tennessee's looked lately. That's my problem. It's the last time we saw them, they were losing to Mizzou. They could have lost to Vandy the week before. But they won that game in Nashville. That's a pretty big win. Oklahoma's not bad. Did you know Nigel Pack is still playing basketball? He plays for Oklahoma. Did you know that?
I did now.
Mm-hmm. You know, you're probably right. It's so gross that you just got to lean into it. You're right. Have some gumption. Been pretty good with the basketball bets of late, by the way. Remember when people said, how are you picking North Carolina to beat Duke? And then they did. And then said, how are you picking Duke to beat Michigan? And then they did. Well, we've been pretty good at this lately. Just want that, let the record be known that we've been pretty good at this lately. So there you go. I'm not going to flaunt the Tennessee pick. I might take it, but that's D-Day's pick. He's the brainchild of that. So that way you direct the praise towards him when that ultimately happens in Knoxville. I'm just going to lean into Virginia, 10.5. And part of it's to earn brownie points with my wife, who's a Virginia graduate. Part of it's that. She's not listening right now, but she might. She might later. Oh, man. SMU Stanford. I'm going to watch the hell out of that game. You want to know how I'm a sicko? I'm going to watch the hell out of SMU and Stanford. I'm going to fire it up. Going to do it. Just leaning in. There it is. We don't need to give out a full card if we don't have it. We have D-Day telling you to take the Volunteers minus 4.5, and I'm telling you to take Virginia plus 10.5 at Duke. That's what we're doing here. Make sure, if you haven't, you're subscribed to our channel on YouTube. Is the John Shire interview the most watched video that we've put out so far? The 100 or so videos that we've put out so far on the Westwood One Sports Night feed? So that's exciting. Duke moves the needle. College basketball. They do. And appreciate him for spending the time here. Make sure you check that out if you missed it. Westwood One Sports Nights, the YouTube channel, as our numbers continue to grow greatly. Hundreds of subscribers just in the past week. We're getting close to 400 subscribers. You know what? I want to get to 400 subscribers by the time March arrives. That means this weekend. Let's figure that out. So if you haven't subscribed already, you're wondering how you could help out your favorite late night talk show, and that's one way to do it. Go to YouTube, Westwood One Sports Night, and smash that subscribe button. I feel like one of those 20-year-old, 19-year-old YouTubers right now. That's how I feel. Smash that subscribe button. Ring the bell. Ring the bell so you get notifications every time we post a video. It's how I feel right now. And I don't look like one of those characters. I don't have a baggy hoodie on and a beanie. You do like Beanie Josh. At times I should probably channel that.
Is a hoodie required?
Yeah, to look like one of those YouTubers.
Which one?
I think you're required to wear casual wear. I think it's required if you're going to be one of those.
Are you too preppy? You do live in the state of North Carolina. North Carolina loves quarter zips. I learned that a couple weekends ago. It's quarter zip heaven.
Jim Nantz, the pride of North Carolina. We claim him for good reason.
Everybody wears quarter zips there. It's actually kind of annoying how many quarter zips.
He calls Charlotte his hometown. Even though he went to Houston, his dad, a graduate from Greensboro College, the Quakers, shout out.
Everybody loves those.
I
like the Quaker snacks, the rice cakes.
Jim Nantz,
those are good.
Jim Nantz is. Do you want to know a fact about Jim Nantz's dad that might be the greatest fact you hear? This is why Jim Nantz is the greatest, by the way. Love Jim Nantz. We need to get Jim Nantz on the show. Let's figure it out. But one time, somebody told me they knew Jim Nantz was going to be at a function I was at. Said, when you run into Jim Nantz, because I'm close to Greensboro, ask about his dad's playing career. Jim Nantz's dad's playing career. So I see Jim. My best Tony Romo. And I say, hey, I was told, I was given a tip to ask about your dad's playing career. And he started to smile and he said, well, he was a Quaker. He was a Quaker at Greensboro College that played football in the mid-40s. And he started right away playing both sides of the ball for the Greensboro Quakers. And one of the prized possessions I own, this is Jim Nantz describing it, talking about his dad, Jimmy Nantz, as he calls him. One of the prized possessions I own is the game program from his first ever game at the University of Maryland. And it has the rosters of both teams. Jimmy Nantz, Jim Nantz's dad, was 16 years old as a freshman, playing both sides of the ball for the Greensboro Quakers. But there's a historical note to this game. The coach of the opposing Maryland Terrapins was coaching his first ever college football game as a head coach. First ever coaching game for this head coach of Maryland. And they won that day. Maryland did. So this was the coach's first ever win. Do you know the name of the coach for the Maryland Terrapins in the mid-40s that got his first career win against Jimmy Nantz, 16 years old, playing both sides of the ball? A man by the name of Paul Bear Bryant. Jim Nantz has the game program. Meet our new coach, Paul Bear Bryant, at Maryland, beating Jimmy Nantz and Greensboro College, the Quakers. Hello, friends.
I was like right after World War II. My grandfather might have been there.
How about that? Go Terps. They figured it out. We have something ridiculous that we're going to do on this show. Just absurd. And it's next.
How long will the Steelers wait for a decision from Aaron Rodgers? Or could Mike McCarthy and company be in the market for a QB like Malik Willis in free agency? Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Josh Graham.
This might be the most absurd thing we've done in the 2-month run of this show. It's Combine Week, and we have measurables. We being myself and Dent Day, and perhaps even Oliver Shack taking your calls at 310-840-4910. And let's go through them very quickly. I have weighed in D-Day, 5'11" and 3/4, 203 pounds, 32-inch arm length. Take that, Ruben Bain. 8.7-inch hands, but I only scored a 20 on the Wonderlic, which we took tonight. See if you can find what some of the worst scores were on the Wonderlic.
They're bad.
Oliver Shack. Like, didn't CJ Stroud score a 5? Something absurd like that. Denton Day.
The worst one was a 4 from Morris Claiborne.
Oh. D-Day's a little bit more compact. 5'10", 195.
And losing.
30 and losing. 31 and 1/3 inch arm length. So slightly shorter than my 32 on the dot. 9.5-inch hands. You know what they say about guys with big hands?
Big balls.
Catch radius. No,
That too.
big catch radius.
Well, yeah, for the balls, yeah.
Big catch radius is what they say. And big gloves. Keep big gloves. You scored slightly better on the Wonderlic, 22. That's what you scored. Do we have anything from Oliver Shack to compare him, contrast him with some of the measurables that we've put out?
Yeah, so I am 6 feet tall. I weighed in this morning at 201. So I would say somewhere around 200 to 202. Physically, just reference Myles Garrett for arm length, hands, everything else. And I actually scored a 33 on the one.
Everything else for Myles Garrett? Yeah. You and Myles Garrett.
6'5", 270, comparable.
Are you really 6 feet tall?
I am.
They're basically twins.
I'm 6 feet. Fun fact, I was 5'11" in 7th grade, and I've grown an inch since.
How do you do on the dating apps? Do you get insecure about 6 feet right on the dot?
Not a dating app guy. I've never been. I've never been a fan of it. So I made an account once when I was like a sophomore in college for fun, but it was never anything serious. It was just like for fun.
Sounds like you're ashamed of it. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. Like, it's just more information. You're talking to two guys who met their wives on dating apps.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't have anything against people who use it, but I've never used it to genuinely date. I did it just because me and a couple friends just wanted to start it, so like we had something to laugh about.
My boy says, I don't need him. He got game, Josh. That's what he's telling us. He said, you guys are losers. You need the internet.
He's 6 feet. That's it, man. He's got the measurables. He doesn't have those Ruben Bain arms. He's got those Myles Garrett arms. That's what he's got. Fire it up. What have you learned about this information that we've given you? Like, what D-Day? How has this changed your view about our capability in this space now that you have this information?
Well, none of us can play defensive end. I've learned that one. We're not nearly tall enough. You don't have the size. Arm length is good for our size, but you got to be a lot bigger. There is combine stuff that's going on Twitter right now. I don't know if you've seen this between the Bears fans and ESPN Milwaukee. My guy Alex Strofe he's in some hot water with Bears fans.
That's not the breaking news that's popping up most on my feed right now. What is happening with the Bears right now?
Well, the Bears fans are attacking him because they did like a combine bit, which we didn't, we didn't do because we're all in different places. But he was doing some bench presses and things, and he didn't bench a lot. And now Bears fans are making fun of him. Caleb Williams retweeted a tweet about him not being able to bench press a certain amount of weight because Alex is in I think he works at ESPN Madison, so he's in the Madison area. He's criticized Caleb Williams for painting his fingernails, apparently. So there's like this whole beef back and forth. It's literally like all over my Twitter feed, partially because Alex is a friend of mine. So like I'm seeing my boy get torn up on Twitter because he can't bench press a lot. I'm like, he provides more than just bench pressing ability or inability.
Do you know what happens anytime ESPN play-by-play man Boog Shiambi's in the news? Somebody somewhere just tags me in my mentions, like the news regarding him, usually with a close-up on Boog Shiambi's face, as if to say that I am a spitting image of Boog Shiambi. Like, Boog Shiambi is like what I'm going to look like 15, 20 years from now. Amazing announcer, okay? But I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate it very much. Huh?
Do you not think he's attractive?
I think I don't think he's in at 203. Just I'm gonna say that. Just, you know, I wish I was the play-by-play announcer that he was. I do. But I'm just saying I don't appreciate all the Boog Shiambi zoom ups that I get in my mentions from time
Do you
to
know
time.
him?
No. I wish I did. I like Boog Shiambi.
That's actually
play-by-play.
hilarious that people compare him. And I'm like, does he know about it? He probably doesn't at all.
I think so. He might just assume. I don't know if he's I don't even know if he's on Twitter. The news today is that Boog is known with Fran Fraschilla for doing the Big 12 championship game every year. They're now sending Schulman and Billis, which kind of annoys me because it's going to be the second straight year they're not calling the ACC championship game. Bothers me.
Who's calling the
Duke
ACC?
in North Carolina. Probably Dave O'Brien and Corey Alexander, if I had to guess.
They're not doing like a Freaky Friday swap.
Who? Oh, you don't think that? You think that Boog Shiambi might be going to the ACC?
I mean, that would be hilarious. I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be hilarious if they just Freaky Friday. It'd be weird. It shouldn't make sense. I mean, you would.
I think Boog and Fran are probably still going to call the Big 12 tournament. I just don't think they're going to do the championship game. Is my guess.
Oh, that's a swing and a miss.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to try to make the ACC championship game. I need to figure that one out. Getting to the ACC championship game, because I've been to that every year for the last decade or so.
It's in Charlotte, right?
Yeah. So 8:30 tip for the championship game. Get off air on Saturday at 7:00. Get that turnaround. Get up the road a little bit. Maybe get to Charlotte. Get to the Queen City.
How far is that from you? Why don't you just do the show from there? You have the capability.
It's not a bad thought.
Thank you. I came up with it myself.
Actually, you know, I might reach out to some of the folks there. See if we can make that happen. Because
I deserve some Bojangles for this thought.
Yeah, because we know some folks. We can maybe try to make that one happen. The measurables. Shout outs to Miami of Ohio for getting the massive, massive win tonight. But do you know the funniest thing to happen in basketball tonight? The NBA being unable to catch a break with Cavs Pistons. That was maybe the funniest thing to happen. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it was supposed to be Donovan Mitchell, James Harden against the East leading Pistons in prime time on the ESPN window. Instead, Spida and Beard didn't play. But at least you had SGA's return versus the Joker in the nightcap, right? Problem is, the entire first half of Celtics Nuggets aired on ESPN News because there was a 12-minute horn malfunction delay. And when I say a malfunction, it's not that the horn wasn't playing. It's that the horn wouldn't stop playing. So you got JP Biggerstaff and you have the all the fans just have their hands over their ears for 12 minutes because it was loud and wouldn't stop. And then the game went to overtime, of course. The game wouldn't end. And we couldn't get to Celtics Nuggets quick enough. Couldn't get the to Nuggets Celtics quick enough. First time that I needed a cough button and haven't had one in the 2 months of doing this show. Knock on wood. Hopefully that's not something we need again. Fernando Mendoza and Diego Pavia both spoke at NFL Scouting Combine, quarterback day in the media. They had mixed results, and we'll get into it next on Westwood One Sports Night.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Josh Graham.
Let's go out to the combine. Quarterback speaking. Diego Pavia. Fernando Mendoza. Among those that we're talking. Let's start with Diego Pavia. Under no circumstances should Diego Pavia be drafted at any point. Late round pick, don't care. He should not be an NFL draft pick. If your team has a good GM, Pavia shouldn't even be on the board. The more I personally get to know executives in the NFL following the league, the more fascinated I get with the draft process and learn about how boards are put together. And one thing that might jump out to you at first is how detailed the injury reports are and how many players, even incredibly noteworthy players, are write-offs on boards altogether because of injury. But there are also write-offs due to character too, and the definition of a character write-off is Diego Pavia. But let's just go down memory lane, why don't we? While at New Mexico State, Diego Pavia urinated on the midfield logo of the rival New Mexico indoor facility. Last offseason, he called the Big Ten. Well, he ignored calls from the Big Ten when it was announced he was going to be returning for another year, but wasn't specifically clear that it was going to be at Vanderbilt. He did return, of course, but the quote that he gave the Bussin' with the Boys guys, quote, "You want to play with the best. You don't play the Big Ten. You ignore those calls," close quote. You know, the conference that's won the last 3 national championships. Yeah, that conference. That's the one that you don't want to play. You want to play with the best. You want to play in the conference that hasn't even had a runner-up in the last 3 years. In Tuscaloosa last October, he confronted an Alabama fan by grabbing his crotch and yelling, "I do what I effing want." But all of that pales in comparison to after the Heisman ceremony. You remember, Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman. Diego Pavia did not. So he goes to a nightclub, poses next to a sign reading "F Indiana" with a middle finger up. And he also posted "F the voters" on social media, clearly not knowing that former Heisman winners are among the voters. With all of that as a backdrop, we need to hear how he handled the character concern questions at his combine availability. Because if he was apologetic, if he was sincere and eloquent, perhaps these are all things you can move past. Sign of growth. He was none of those things. Here he was when asked about the perception that's out there about him.
One thing about me is I don't care what people think about me. I think that just comes from, God has a plan for me regardless. But the way the media is they're supposed to put out, clickbait and things like that. That's how people get views and that's how people make money. I understand that. And so like people will twist a story and try to put out bad media to get clicks, good media to get clicks. That's just what today's world that we live in. So I'm just adjusting to the new world.
Do you think he thought that was a bar? Crush that question. Clickbait. I don't care what anybody thinks. Do you think he crushed that, or he thinks he crushed that?
I'm sure he thinks he did. It's not the worst answer I've heard.
It's pretty bad. I mean, I don't care what anybody thinks. I hope you care what your mom thinks.
Oh, you are so literal. He was not meaning it like that. Come on.
I hope you care what your coach thinks. I hope you care what Heisman voters think. I hope you care about, and here's the thing. I think it tracks. I mean, this is the same dude. I do what I effing want. Yelling at the Alabama fan. I honestly don't. I believe him. I thought it was a moment in truth where he's like, I don't care what anybody thinks. It kind of shows. But then this was fabulous. He was talking about this perception right there, but it got worse when he was asked about his confidence and where it comes from.
I'm not too sure how to answer that. I feel like there's a lot out there, but I just want everyone to know, what's true about me is I'm humble and I get my confidence from my process. And if you saw how much I put into this, you would see where I get my confidence from.
I mean, as the saying goes, it is the man that tells us how humble he is that is most humble. That's the good stuff from Diego Pavia. And none of this addresses the football concerns. You seem like a Pavia fan, didn't they? Is it because he's a short king?
I'm not a Pavia fan. Vanderbilt Twitter knows I'm not a Pavia fan. I just think you took that quote very literal.
I did. But I also think he believes it. Partly. Of course he cares what his mom thinks. I mean,
yeah, she was at every single game.
I mean, what else would him and Theo Vaughn have to talk
I think
about?
I think that's what needs to be discussed a little bit more. The relationship with Theo Vaughn is objectively odd. Theo Vaughn is 40.
He name dropped Theo Vaughn during the availability.
I know it sucks. Like that's an objectively weird thing.
And it wasn't like anyone asked about Theo Vaughn. It was he was asked about Ty Simpson. He's like, "Oh, I just realized that Ty actually lives in Nashville. So we need to go work out and then we'll have dinner with Theo." This is what he just volunteered. It's like now Theo Vaughn's hanging out with Ty Simpson and that's what we're doing now?
It's just so unbelievably odd. Theo Vaughn was on television before Diego Pavia was born.
What was Theo Vaughn doing on television before Diego?
He was on The Challenge. You didn't know Theo Vaughn was on The Challenge? Oh, great show. You got to watch The Challenge. He was on The Challenge. MTV.
I have friends who love The Challenge. Is that why Theo Vaughn's famous?
Now you have a new one. Well, he's famous for comedy purposes, but that was his like break into national exposure, and then did the comedy bit.
Is
and
this
now
a Rogan? Is this like a Rogan Fear Factor situation where it's not the reason Rogan's famous, but people knew Rogan first because he was on that show?
More or less. But yeah, you just get in front of television agents, then you make relationships with television agents, and then you do the stand-up bit. I don't think Theo Vaughn's been in a ton of TV shows or movies, but now he's mooching off a 23-year-old guy that thought he won the Heisman, but really was never close to winning the Heisman. Like it's weird. Because not like he's a mentor.
No, not the greatest influence, probably. I loved Fear Factor. I did. That was a show I watched regularly.
Never saw it.
But did you at least see with Joe Rogan in it, the Chappelle Show parody with Tyrone Biggums?
Probably once, but nah.
My feet are strong, Joe Rogan. Yada, yada, yada. If anybody, there's some things from that bit I'd love to say out loud, talking about a piece of the a piece of anatomy on an elk.
This is
that
overnight
I'll talk
radio.
about.
You have that freedom. It's past 10 p.m. in every market here that we're on. I don't think we're on in Hawaii.
Elk penis. Those are words that, I mean, where's my East Carolina degree? It's somewhere. My mass communication degree. Words that I didn't think I'd ever utter on a talk show such as this. Getting to his height, he is less than 5'10", listed at 5'9", which is hilarious considering he was listed at 6 foot at Vandy. Somewhere every woman on Tinder is nodding. Been there. But the last time a NFL quarterback started that was shorter than 5'9", shorter than the height of Diego Pavia, you have to go back to 5'7" Eddie LeBaron in the late 50s, early 60s. Or Davey O'Brien, 5'7" in the 30s. So, Diego Pavia, good luck to you in that regard. I just don't like the Manziel. I get why the Manziel comparisons happen. I don't like them. I feel it disrespects Johnny Manziel. Sounds like a weird thing to say out loud, but Johnny Manziel won the Heisman. Johnny Manziel won in Tuscaloosa against Saban, not winning at home against Kalen DeBoer in year one. Johnny Manziel was 6 feet tall. Johnny Manziel was a dude in college. Diego Pavia, he's like Ole Miss basketball player Marshall Henderson last decade. Crazy highlights, fun wins, non-traditional program, but the wild antics are probably what we're going to remember most. Daily Row writes in Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie was 5'10". Fun fact. Let's get to Fernando Mendoza's availability now. There was some good. There was some bad. Let's get to the positive piece first. This genuinely speaking, is as good of an answer you're going to hear a prospect give when asked the question that every top pick has to consider. You're going to be taken by a team that has a really bad record. How do you feel about that?
The possibility, I mean, we see how the NFL turns around so much. NFL, the margins are so small. There's so many games decided by so few points, and the difference between, a losing record and a winning record is a couple of drives, is a couple of key plays. And so whatever team I'm on, I'm just going to take that advice and take the coaching from the coaching staff, and however I can best serve my teammates on that team, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
That's as good of an answer as you're going to get. Because he's right. This isn't college where the margins are huge often. They're really small in the NFL. And we've seen teams go from being really bad to really good quickly. Does that mean Vegas is going to be that? Not what we're saying. But a really good answer for a prospect put in that spot, very well spoken. He should just embed that answer onto his LinkedIn page because we know how much he loves his LinkedIn. Getting to the bad. Fernando Mendoza. It was a sports lexicon, sports way of speaking, sports language faux pas that Fernando Mendoza violated when talking about some of the losses he's had in his past and how they've shaped him.
I've played a lot of college football, started 3 seasons, which has been great experience. In my first 2 years, out of probably the 18 games I played, I don't know the exact numbers, so don't quote me on that. A lot of them were one-score games. I had a lot of tough defeats, whether it was 49-50 to USC and Caleb Williams 2 years ago, whether it was 38-39 to Cam Moore and the Miami Hurricanes the past year. I believe a lot of that experience of failing and coming up so short has helped me in this new run with Indiana, wherever we've.
Don't do the losing score first. It's always the winning score first. Big pet peeve. It's like a giveaway that somebody doesn't know ball, D-Day. When you hear people say the losing score first. Don't you just, It's the verbal equivalent of watching somebody throw a ball and not do it properly, or shoot a basketball and shoot it with one hand, kind of one-hand it. It doesn't impugn your character at all, but it makes me think less of you, if I'm just being honest. I shouldn't, but I do. It's like, or in terms of like your athletic prowess. I have my, oh, really? You throw it like that? Oh, you shoot it like that? Huh. If you say the losing score first, that's what I'm thinking. Oh, this person doesn't know ball. And Fernando Mendoza knows ball, so he should know better. I love that the image I see of Denton is frozen, where he's doing the thinker right now. He's got his hand fixed on his chin. It's very thoughtful. Makes me think that he has something profound to say, and he might not. And that's okay. But there is some news that's being discussed. This is a press release. D-Day, have you seen what the Tampa International Airport put out today? I don't want to take away from your put it to bed story if this is in fact a put it to bed story for later.
My put it to bed story does come from Florida, but it does not have anything to do with the airport.
What if I said this press release is going to make you upset and it just might have something to do with putting it to bed quite literally? I get to do the tease this time. That's next on Westwood One Sports Night.
NFL trade season has opened with a rare player-for-player trade. Former first-rounder Jermaine Johnson goes to Tennessee for Tavondre Sweat. This D-line swap signifies we're on our way to another active offseason. Bring it on. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Josh Graham.
The Tampa International Airport is being dragged on social media because they decided to put out a press release that turned out to be a joke, but the social media mob wasn't having it. Here's the press release in its entirety. We've seen enough. We've had enough. It's time to ban pajamas at Tampa International Airport. After successfully banning Crocs and giving everyone the amazing opportunity to experience the world's first Crocs-free airport, it's time to take on an even larger crisis: pajamas at the airport in the middle of the day. We know the decision could be disruptive to someone in your life. It's time to have a difficult conversation with them. You can do this. We believe in you. The madness stops today. The movement starts now. Help Tampa International Airport becomes the world's first croc-free and pajama-free airport. Do your part. Say no to pajamas at TPA. Denton Day, your reaction.
That is such a boomer-ass joke. Like, it's not even funny. That's my problem with it. In hearing you read it, where's the punchline? There is none.
I just think
because there's no humor.
I think the joke is that a lot of people wear pajamas to the airport, and this was to try to. What? You can't wear pajamas anymore?
So they're clout chasing. They just want to be talked about. They're so desperate for attention that they just want to be talked about.
Correct.
Why are we rewarding that? It's loser behavior.
Places that are supposed to be public services don't need the traffic and the joke space. Nothing bothers me more than when I see police departments, sheriff's departments, fire departments putting witty commentary in their Instagram or social media posts that should just be reserved for giving us facts and information. And yeah, the Tampa International Airport deserves all the heat that they're getting. It does prompt the question, though, that Pajamas are over the line though. At the airport, right? Pajamas.
No. Why? Why do you care what anyone else is wearing at the airport?
Oh, well, it's a public space. We kind of
Traveling sucks. Do whatever you got to do to get through it. Nobody wants. The airport is the one place where everyone who is there doesn't want to be there.
So you're fine with somebody going barefoot sitting right next to you?
Yeah, I don't care about that. They're weird, but like, what am I going to do? I'm going to throw them out of the plane?
No, I'm just saying we could say that sucks. Why? And not.
But
encourage
barefoot
that
and
behavior?
pajamas are not the same thing.
No, but you said, why do I care what somebody's wearing or how they choose
That
to
would
dress
be
themselves?
not wearing, which I
That's
said
true.
wearing, and you said something was not wearing.
That's true. I stand by the
You
thought
get
that-
offended when you see people in pajamas?
No, but I frown upon it.
You dress
Look at
up
this
to go
one.
to the airport, aren't you? Yeah, you want to be
No.
seen.
No,
Yeah.
my wife does. I do not. I generally wear sweats, but pajamas I think is another level. Like sweats is one thing. Pajamas is
What is the difference?
It's, again,
the pattern?
one is no one's like fully intended just to be warm while you're sleeping. The other is, I mean, they make a lot of comfort wear that you're supposed to be wearing out. It's different.
Well, I feel like the people that are trying to get rid of pajamas are also trying to get rid of sweats. Like you're just the next domino to fall.
So you're saying by believing that it's okay to frown upon pajamas,
They're frowning upon sweats too, because
it's a slippery slope. You're saying it's a slippery slope that eventually it's going to usurp me.
those that are frowning upon people who wear pajamas instinctively think that those people are bums. You just said it's a public space. Why are you not dressed accordingly? Sweats is the next thing because you can look bummy in sweats.
You ever go back and watch video from old baseball games, like in the 40s and 50s?
No.
And
They had video
notice-
back then?
It did. And you notice that like everybody at the games like wearing a suit.
I
Can you
went
imagine
to
how
a
strange it is?
I went to a football game where people did that, and it's very weird. It's all SEC teams. It's like a weird thing that they do, where all the fraternity students, they're like, "Hey, I'm going to be in a full suit." That's weird. That's weirder to me than wearing pajamas to an airport. Like, what if you have a 9-hour flight? I want to sleep on that bad boy. I can't sleep on planes, but maybe you can sleep on planes. I'm not sleeping in jeans.
Pete writes in, Josh Graham is the Diego Pavia of Westwood One Sports.
You happy with that one? Diego Pavia wouldn't wear pajamas, though, so you and Diego Pavia got something to bond over.
F all the voters. That's what I got to say to that. The two greatest stories in college basketball, the Virginia Cavaliers and the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. The Redhawks improved to 29-0 tonight. Stop mocking them. Start celebrating them. Tonight might have been their best win of the year. They trailed the entire second half at Western Michigan before taking the lead in the final 2 minutes. Then with the game tied, we have this sound, don't we? At the very end on CBS Sports Network, this happened.
With an opportunity for the win to get to 29-0. Chris Perry working on Ryan. It's going to be Trey Perry. The left hand, and it goes for Trey Perry and the foul. And Trey Perry wins it for the Redhawks.
Trey Perry, the backup point guard, because the starting point guard was hurt. He's a freshman, and the other backcourt mate, one of their best players, fouled out. You get that win when a lot of things are going wrong. Credit to Coach Steele. Credit to Miami of Ohio. This is the part that really burns me up about college sports, or the way that some view college sports, trying to professionalize everything, including the mentality. Not everything's about winning a national championship. Miami of Ohio, breaking news, is not going to win the title, and that's fine. Completing your regular season unbeaten. Saw something today that there's a lot of funding because of what has happened at Miami of Ohio into that program that otherwise would not have happened if not for this run. I think they're funding to get renovations onto their building because of this. And that matters. So does winning your conference championship. You know it's going to be a spectacle next Saturday. You're going to have Miami of Ohio, likely at 30-0, chance to finish the regular season unbeaten, facing their rivals in Athens. Athens, Ohio, ultimate college town. Been there a few times. They're going to be jumping, and they're pretty good, too. It's not going to be a gimme. But this talk surrounding them is so obnoxious, where you have folks saying, if they lose in the conference tournament, they should be bumped out of the field altogether. In favor of whom? 500 Auburn? Would you rather see 500 Auburn in the field over a, let's say, 31-1 Miami of Ohio team? Because I wouldn't. Regardless of what happens in the MAC tournament, the Red Hawks should absolutely, positively be into the field. They're currently ranked near the top 20. If they lose, that shouldn't bump you out of the tournament altogether. It would be a slap in the face even if they got sent to Dayton. But it is worth noting, Dayton's about 40 miles away from Miami's campus. So, might be a very pro Miami crowd. Miami of Ohio, a really good story. As are the Virginia Cavaliers. Is it strange to you how little this team's being talked about? There is no team ranked in the top 20 that is discussed less than the Virginia Cavaliers.
I think some casuals realized earlier this week that Tony Bennett is not their coach anymore when he took a job with the Lakers.
Oh, I've seen some posts. From people saying, just assuming that the style's the same, talking about Duke. Oh, Duke's electric style against Virginia. Actually, that's flipped. Duke's the really good defensive team, and Virginia's the one that scores a lot of points now. Noon tip tomorrow, that's the best game on the slate as far as I see it, with respect to Kansas going to Arizona. Virginia's the dark horse of this college basketball season. They're the team that has a chance at potentially winning a championship that nobody is talking about. They're 11th in the country. No one's talking about them, despite the fact they're 25-3. Only 4 high major schools have fewer losses than 3. That's Michigan, that's Duke, it's Arizona, and Gonzaga, who we know plays in the West Coast Conference. They also have been playing tremendous ball. They've won 9 in a row, including beating a tourney team at NC State by 28 points earlier in the week. And Ryan Odom has a real case to be National Coach of the Year. He's the only first-year coach that has a team ranked in the top 25. All 9 of his players in his rotation that average double-figure minutes. So the guys that play are either freshmen or transfers on this team. They're all newcomers. And Virginia has the opportunity to completely transform the discourse surrounding them and surrounding the sport, really, if they win tomorrow. If they win at number 1 Duke Cameron, a place that John Shire hasn't lost in nearly 2 years, Virginia becomes maybe the trendy pick on everybody's bracket. Oh, watch out for Virginia. I watched them beat Duke. Oh, look at their record. Oh, here they come. So that's the game that you circle. That's the game that you look forward to. Virginia, the dark horse of the season. We got put it to bed in just a bit. Do want to talk about a dilemma that has faced the National Hockey League of late. This has become a story. So we're seeing both sides of the Olympic hockey trade-off this week. We're seeing some of the negative. 2 of the biggest stars in the sport injured in Milan. Sidney Crosby placed on IR. He's going to be out for at least 4 weeks, we learned this week. Mikko Rantanen, we learned today, one of the 3 or 4 top forwards in the sport, going to miss the next 2 weeks with the Dallas Stars. Because the U.S.-Canada game was so exciting, so entertaining, and frankly, because the U.S. won, within the States, there's a new interest in the sport that was not there prior. So while the league is thinking, the reason why we weren't wanting to send the guys to the Olympics is to prevent star players from going down, like Crosby and Rantanen, It's why they weren't there in 2018 and in the most recent Olympics before this one. But there's a new interest in the sport because of it. This is the part that might be nuts to you. Even though it was an 8 a.m. Eastern time game, Sunday morning, U.S. and Canada, the average rating for that game, 20.7 million. Despite that window, 20.7 million. For perspective, the highest rated Stanley Cup average audience since the lockout in 2005, 8.7 million. And that was a Game 7 between the Bruins and the Blues in 2019. 8.7, that's the biggest number. 20.7 watched USA versus Canada last Sunday morning. And look at the fallout. Look at the attention that Jack Hughes is getting. Fans of rival teams are wanting his jersey. He's getting a standing ovation in Pittsburgh, a rival of the Devils. Plus, he's dating Tate McRae, another huge win over Canada. Jack Hughes. Is anybody more hated in Canada than Jack Hughes right now? I know they're polite over there, but first he beats the Canadians for gold, and then he dates Tate McRae too? What's sacred anymore, D-Day? What's sacred?
Is Tate McRae Canadian?
You didn't know that?
I did not know that. I thought she was Australian.
I think she's the greatest Canadian export right next to maple syrup. I think it's Tate McRae.
With respect to Tate McRae, maple syrup is far better. Oh, she's Canadian. Why did I think this girl was Australian?
I think she's like an uber hockey fan too.
Well, so is Margot Robbie, and she's also Australian. Well, she is Australian.
Also, she is,
because Tate McRae is apparently not. Who would have known?
I did. I just told you.
You big Tate McRae guy? She in the rotation? You gave us your top 5 artists. Is she like 8th? Because you gave us 7. 2 didn't make the cut. She 8th?
She might be the go-to hot girl right now. I
mean, Sydney
usually,
Sweeney.
Like, no. I'm talking musically. Like Dua Lipa had her time, and
Love
then it's
Dua
like
Lipa.
now I think Tate McRae might be the hot girl, where you're like, whoa, that's a hot girl singing hot girl songs. And Tate McRae does that. And Jack Hughes dating Tate McRae. Big win for the Americans. I mean, I would just assume, I haven't seen this on social media, that Connor Hellebuck got a hell of a ovation in Anaheim tonight. The Jets facing the Ducks. Ultimately, having the NHL players is a net positive for the league there. The players like it. It's what they dream of growing up. That might help you get other things that you want in CBA agreements or in CBA negotiations. The fans like it because it just makes the Olympics more interesting. And then it makes the league more interesting too after those Olympic games because more people watch them than watch NHL games. And now more people might watch the NHL because of the characters they learned about in the Olympics. Yes, Denton.
I'm still looking at Tate McRae songs. I don't know that I've heard most of her catalog before, except for that one that was big on TikTok.
You're looking at Tate McRae's songs. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
There was a pause there, and I just want to make sure that the song, the set list, that's what we're looking at.
I'm smart enough to know that Tate McRae ain't leaving me for Jack Hughes. So like I don't need to look at anything else. I'm looking at her songs.
I think you mean the reverse of that.
She ain't leaving Jack Hughes for me. I do dunk on Canada, but he put the puck in the back of the net.
Hey. I don't know. See, you're the Ute on this show, Oliver. Are you into Tate McRae?
I mean, she's a great artist. I don't really know her songs, to be honest, but I've seen like clips of her performing on social media of like concerts she does. She seems like a great performer, but I'm not like the biggest fan in the world now, but I can objectively say she's really good.
Yeah, I mean, just fire up sports car. Let's get going. D-Dang, what do we have and put it to bed?
Well, not Tate McRae, but we do have a story that involves your new favorite airport, Tampa. and a smuggling incident that you're not going to believe. We'll do it next.
The NFL Combine is underway. GMs are meeting, and trade season has officially sparked. We're breaking down the moves that could reshape the league and your team. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Josh Graham.
I'm Melon. Love that the weekend's here. Thank you for starting your weekend with us the right way. Today has a put it to bed story. Put this show to bed before we move on to other things. It might be Drake Cole in your future. It might be more of us. Who knows? D-Day, I did forget, though, to update you on the one thing you've asked of me tonight. What was the one thing you asked of me tonight?
I have no idea. What have I asked you?
Story.
I did want a steak story. I thought I asked more things, but I did want a steak story.
I went to a place called the Spotted Cow in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Now, there is a story here that probably should not have said the name of the place out loud, but I had never been to this steakhouse. My friend's getting married on Sunday. Congratulations to Kristen and Skylar. Very happy for you guys. Can't wait for that. This was a dinner for the guys to get together prior to the wedding. Have a good time. And that's what we did. Eating steaks, eating red meat. I'd never been to this place before. 2 nights ago, D-Day, I'm leading a church group. Somebody comes over, and the wife isn't feeling all that well. I asked, what's wrong? She says, we were celebrating going out to dinner somewhere, and then it turns out that the water was bad. And it might have been the ice, or it might have been the water. And I'm like, just curious, what's the name of the place? And they said, oh, we don't want to say. And then I said, well, I'm not going to put it out on the radio. That's exactly what I said out loud. And they said it was the place that I was going to for dinner the very next night. So I did something tonight that I've never done before. I said, no water, I'm fine. No ice in my cup either. I'm just going to have some Coke.
I want lukewarm soda.
So then I have a Coke, and I tell somebody this story next to me. I'll make sure they know. And he said, you do realize that the Coke is mixed with the water too, right? Damn. So I might just be screwed all together. But I'll say this.
I feel like you know by now.
The steak's great. The steak was amazing.
What was
Highly
the order?
recommend. Ribeye. I didn't do
Damn,
bones in
ballin'.
this time. I just did ribeye. And then I had a baked potato loaded with some mac and cheese. Here's my move. I love getting multiple meals out, leftovers. So I nibble some on the loaded potato. I nibble some on the mac and cheese. I eat about half the steak. And then I create 2 leftover dishes. I get back home and I cut this remaining steak in half. And I take half of what's left of the loaded baked potato, half of the mac and cheese, and I have 2 leftover items left to go that I can still enjoy in the future.
That is pretty smart. What are the desserts? I don't see the desserts on the menu.
I passed, but there was a lava cake that Chris did. And he said, you're not going to get dessert? I said, I have a show to do tonight. I'm a professional. Damn it.
I just found out the Coke was mixed with water to make sure I'm not just loading the food on top of the bad water.
Well, hold on a sec. It was more like going to restaurants. Generally, unless they have like one of those isolated fountain machines, it's usually at the bar that they fill it. And I do think that is mixed with water. I think that is true. I hope they're wrong, but I think it's true.
Well, I can tell you would know.
By now?
Yeah, I mean, this has been almost 8 hours ago. You would know.
Let's close out the program. Close out the meeting by
There's a man that just got sentenced, Josh. He's a mover of drugs. And it's not really the sentencing that I care about. He did 24 years. It's more so the amount. So this man was moving drugs through the Tampa Bay airport, ironically, I don't know if he was wearing pajamas or not. This is back in 2003. It was 132 pounds of meth. And I'm struck by this number because, like, dog, that's a lot of meth to be moving through an airport, right? Like, it's not like this is on a shipping container off of the coast. It's not like you're getting a bunch of mules that are driving. You're going through a very public space, and you are moving 132 pounds of meth. Like, that's a person.
That is.
I feel like you'd be able to smell it. I don't know. I don't have like a great idea of what meth smells like, but I feel like the police dogs would have smelled that thing from miles away.
Aggressive is the way I describe that. Almost as aggressive as wearing pajamas to the airport. We've come to find out.
Would you rather wear pajamas to the airport or have an ounce of meth? I don't think you measure meth in ounces, but I think it's probably a good sign that I don't know how you measure meth.
That's a good question. I'm gonna answer that question kind of with another question. What if somebody, our show's been around for 2 months now. What if somebody is listening to this show for the first time? Say, you know what? I've heard a lot about this Westwood One Sports Night show, and I want to give it a shot. See what they're talking about. They're breaking down the combine. They're talking about Miami of Ohio or the NBA wins tonight. What's going on? Then they turn it on, and what they hear me describing my steak and maybe slandering a restaurant when it comes to some rumors about the water and/or ice at this establishment, and then this is the story they get. Close things out.
You think a junkie has ever listened to the show?
Yeah.
Like, would it be a?
I think that might be our clientele.
Would it be a good thing or a bad thing if you deliver a take that is so strong that you knock a junkie off their high? Like, they're just tripping balls on meth, and then you'd be like, I think Fernando Mendoza is the best quarterback that we've ever seen, and he just completely sobers up. And it's like, hold on.
Oh,
what does he just say?
I think that happened with Carter for Lamar Jackson.
I don't know if Carter's on meth. He's actually, I hope he's not. He's driving around. He delivers. I love Carter for the Bronx. He has the most New York accent I've ever heard.
Part of me questions
I mean, he has to be riding around in a tracksuit with gold jewelry on.
So I think maybe Lamar Jackson take or Linnell saying that keeping Geno Smith is a
Did
better
that
option
save
than
a junkie's life?
Maybe somebody's like, whoa. I can take my way. And it's because of this tape that I got off the top. And I needed it. Thanks, Linnell. Thanks, Josh, for this conversation. That's what we do here. Westwood One Sports Night. We save lives. We're heroes. That's why that's what I'd say to the person that might be sampling our show for the first time across this great country. And this is the segment that you get. It's also the end of the sports week. I'm on from
Not really.
7 p.m. Eastern time. It's not.
Well, what do you count Sunday? Is Sunday the beginning or the end?
No, I mean that's working Sunday.
Yeah, I'm filling for you on Sunday.
Are you?
Yeah, sorry that you knew that.
It was news. That's it. I want to see Denton on video. I want you to wear what most looks like a mobster outfit on Sunday. I want to see it. Westwood One Sports Night. Denton Day. Catch him on Sunday. Catch me later today. See you then.
This is Westwood One Sports.